All right, let's give it a second for connection. All right, we are here. Hello over on Patreon. So when these go up, when it's live, the second and third tier have access, and then when it gets reposted, they make you put it in drafts and then repost it when it's ready. It goes on to the third tier. Okay. Let's get this going over here in FTJ, and then we'll get started. And I have to address something real quick, and then we'll get right into it. Okay. Yeah. It's even starting on its own. That's awesome. Okay. Hello. And we'll pull up the Rumble. Boom. Make sure everything's rolling. Perfect. Looks like everything's rocking and rolling. Hello, Karen. Very nice to see you, Karen. All right. So, like I said, I have to address something real quick, and then we'll get on with it. Okay. So, this really is just addressing FTJ, really, but everybody can hear if they want. I was a little aggressive and I acted a little bit foolish yesterday, but for good intentions, good reasons. I was on the chat in Flood's live stream where I saw that he was going to have Paul on, Paul Miller, Gypsy Crusader. So, my concerns are FTJ has a certain character integrity and dignity to it that I don't find is attracted by certain people. I'm not saying the person themselves is always offensive, but there's a lot of low comprehension people that follow them. And my concern was I don't want to see that flooding into FTJ and ruining the site. So I expressed my concerns. I expressed them a little aggressively. I don't want to see what, Dave and others have put so much work into get targeted unnecessarily just because of a bunch of people acting stupid and attracting a bad crowd that is more than likely already be tailed by some sort of agency or another. And then we get that heat on us. So I said what I said. I said it aggressively. I didn't mean any disrespect to anybody who was not doing those things, but I just don't find any value in people who go on to Omegle and Monkey and stuff like that and scream the word nigger to children. I don't think that's productive, and I don't think that helps any cause, except for, leading into the stereotype that they already want people to have of inherent racism in white people, which if you're trying to solidify that in the minds of people, then that's exactly how you would do that. So again, I don't find a whole lot of value in that. So I expressed my concerns about it, and I left it at that. And I got kicked out of the chat, which Spy Hunter, no hard feelings there either, bro. I just don't want to see this site get flipped into something that will be repulsive to most people that have common sense. And that was it. That's all I have to say about that. Now let's move on. I've got about 3 hours, and I got to go pick up my daughter. We're going to go to Friday Night Munchies. Going to have some fun. One of our friends has a taco stand there, and it's good times, good people. And let me get into this. And you always know, you know the deal.
79!
If you want to support the show, that's our goal.
79!
Yep. Okay. You gotta go like that. And like that. But first, let me read this part. We pick up at scene 29. The Matriarch Sorceress Elle and her diabolical son Loki, Abel, have been vanquished by the heroic Goths breaking the spell of darkness over the old world. Now comes the true golden age of reason and prosperity. Mankind has been rescued from the evil sorcerers and their cult of human sacrifice. For now. And let's just do a quick run room before I get started in here. Make sure everything's good. Everybody's happy. Everybody happy? All right, good. Looks like there's something going on in this F to the T to the J. Got Uno. Don't know if I'm actually being... Yeah, it looks like it's working. And everybody else is good to go. Remember, YouTube is non-corpus mentis for now. But it's already on... I think I still have it set up for bro shows. There's a Brocephalopicus channel on YouTube as well that I haven't been putting any content on, so I figured why not while we're in timeout. All right. If you want to let me know that you're here, say hello. Karen's already said hello. Let's get started. Trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go here. There we go. Get a little confused sometimes. All right, page 316 of the Edda. Out of 452 pages. I don't know if I'm going to be able to squeeze this all in today. If there's a lot of pictures or something, maybe we'll get through it, but let's take a look. Adam, Airthor, Air, of course, meaning Aryan, H-E-R. Adam Airthor, also known as Arthur or George of the Red Cross, mounts Arthur's seat on the Hill of Eden as victor over Eden and its Chaldees, Chaldee Semites, about 3360 BC. Adam's soliloquy on Arthur's seat in Eden. After Adam's complete conquest of Eden, the home of matriarchy with its riotous mother-son cult, and yes, like I said before, it's as gross as that sounds, mother-son cult, Balder or Loki or Abel, and the sorceress Elu. The riotous mother-son cult and the sanguinary sacrifices and the death of the two Chaldean inveterate archenemies of civilization and liberty. They were enemies of civilization and liberty, same as it ever was until the very present day. El and her son paramour, priest as in warlock, Abel Balder, it is related in the last verse of Thor's drubbing or beatdown of the Edenites. And remember, priestcraft beyond Babylon. There's a reason why I named it that. These people infect all cultures and civilizations, and they follow our people around all throughout history to undo and destroy what we build for mankind. The last verse of Thor's drubbing of the Edenites, that he ascended the mountain of Eden, the well-known hill of Karshemish on the Euphrates, and there seating himself, look at that, they'll tell you that these people are Akkadians. It's not true. There sitting himself, what did I say? There's something missing here. There seating himself, there's something missing. Great sculpture of his enthronement, actually found at Karshemish, and looking down on the Garden of Eden, uttered the following soliloquy. On the mountain seat, quoth the sun cult one, that would be Thor, seated above Erd River, burn well. So heaved the rammed, the demons lie, the rampageous roams, bound in their lane of doom. Remember, another name for the Edenites is roams. And yes, that does relate to Rome and its founding. And we'll get into that hopefully this episode. But keep that in mind. And there's a lion. Sometimes that could be representative of the Phrygians. Note he is seated on a lion throne with the conquered and tamed lion behind, bearing Adam's rowan apple standard, showing origin of the rampant lion in our modern heraldry and its real meaning. It's subordination to the goat or unicorn and not the reverse, as supposed by later Chaldees and Celts. Above him is his rayed sun cross, now supplemented underneath by the crescent moon to denote his combined and universal sway and his soaring sunhawk. The inscription states that the god is the god or lord, the enthroned Zax, the later form of spelling Sag, the source of Thor's Eddic title of Sig, whilst Zax is the source of Zeus. The word at the base of the throne is Az, or Lord, like Asa, and the source of the Eddic title of Asa. There you go. There's the moon, the sun symbol, the sun cross, and it's subordinate to the sun, meaning it's underneath it. And how many times have you seen crosses with the crescent moon underneath it? People be like, oh, the Muslims and the Christians were all together. No. The mountain of Eden is referred to by Ezekiel, who makes El or Elohim, the Hebrew god, say, "Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God." Elohim literally means the gods of the Goths. And here's a funny thing too. You never hear that what do you want to call it? Is it a parable or is it what do you call this? Not a parable. But the woman who cut off the ends of the ham because her grandmother always used to do it. And then she asked one day why. And it's just because it didn't fit in the pan. So she was doing something out of tradition, but not understanding the meaning. You see this a lot as things are carried over. People don't understand the why, but they just copy it. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stone's fire. Okay, here it is. Rom or Rome as a title of Eden and its mother-son cult. Gee, I wonder why they established another place called Rome. I wonder why they were so subordinate, seemingly, and did the bidding of the Sanhedrin, which would be the priest class. And remember the wolves? What were Romulus and Remus suckled by? This Eddic verse is of immense historical interest and importance in that, besides fixing Eden beyond dispute with Karshemish, by reference to its well-known hill, apart from the very numerous ancient sculptures there, representing the past history of Eden, it also designates the Edenites as Romes, i.e. prehistoric Romans, of the wolf-suckled tribe and devotees of the mother goddess, the sorceress. This designation of the Edenites as Romes is confirmed by the Sumerian, which gives to Eden the irrigated plain or garden and sacred seat of the oracular priestess, the synonym of Rum. British Edda, Scene 30. Regeneration of Eden by Adam and its conversion into a utopian city of God and his uplifting of man. Disclosing Adam as the achiever of the rise of man, Adam's regeneration of Eden. Remember, he didn't just kill off all these people in conquest because they were in opposition to him. He rehabilitated those who were rehabilitable, but the ones who were into the funky human sacrifices, torture, and raping and murdering of children, those people had to go. Adam, on annexing Eden, or hell, at Karshemish, immediately set about reforming that old paradise of El and Woden and their chosen people. Come on, guys. It's not just said there for no reason. By uplifting and purifying its Edenites. Now we're starting to make the connections, right? This is who these people are, and this is their actual roots. And if you go deep enough into learning what Ashkenazis actually came from, they're going to say Turkey, Karshemish, and Cappadocia are in Turkey. Then you'll say, oh, it's part of, Germany and this and that and the other thing. This is and they're distinguished differently from, there's the Khazar Ashkenazi, there's the Turkish Ashkenazi, there's the Sephardics, all with a little bit of slightly different ethnicity and all this other stuff. But this is that cult, including other people, including the other Chaldee, Semites, and Arabic type people, which, by the way, weren't exactly even in that area during this time in the history. By uplifting and purifying its Edenites, uplifting and purifying its enemies, as he had done in the other parts of his empire, and what we seem to always do, in extending to it and them the exalting benefits of his higher civilization, laws, and liberty. I'm not saying it's always a great idea, because this particular cult will take, and then manipulate and maneuver and find the loopholes in order to dominate certain aspects and industries in that civilization, and then slowly erode it from within, as we have seen. And they're always plotting your demise and working with your enemies to overthrow your kingdom. There's good people and then there's bad people. He converted Eden from a primeval hotbed of devil worshippers with cruel animal and human sacrifices into an ideal city of God, which was presumably the traditional city of God, with the presence of the archangel Michael, Cain, his son, which John describes in his Revelations. The reforming transformation of Eden by Adam, along with his compassionate forgiveness of the Balderites, also known as, you could just say Baal, right? Balder is Baal, is Loki, is Lucifer, or Abelites, and his welcome for them to dwell in his regenerate Eden on their becoming more or less regenerate and law-abiding, is celebrated at length in the concluding verses of the central lay. To that account is here prefaced another reference to that event in another lay, which in the form of a true prophecy, and a true prophecy is made after the event. It's not really a prophecy if you already knew what happened. Makes Michael or Cain co-regent with Adam in the reformed Eden. Co-ruler. Let me just check something real quick, and we'll move on. All right. Edward Snowman, you're the man. Thank you so much, sir. Greatly appreciated. I got a little monkey there. That's cool. Thank you very much, sir. Let's continue. Regeneration of Eden and world by Adam. Vidar or Cain and Vali or Abel together will build in Fane of the Goths when Woden's fire is slaked. Adam and Michael shall have the mallet or scepter after Wingni, which is Adam's last fight. And the wing thing is always indicative of the sun or the sun cult. It's a symbol that they often even wore, some sort of feathered attachment to their dress. And you see this again popping up in the Hussars. The central lay sings, I see upcoming another fellowship on earth, now at ease, at Heidi's green pine. Remember Evergreen, iGreen? Remember the Clinton, shipping company? Do you remember them finding a container that was loaded with 17,000 baby parts? Do you remember that? Yeah. Fountains fall there. The sun eagle flies over it. There the falcon hunts for fishes. The asses are the asses or the lords are now found at Ida's, Elu or El's, well of Erd. And over the bowstrings of the world, the lords are the mighty doomsters. I like that. And they mind there the judgments of the magi, the sorcerers, the people, conducting witchcraft, and against the fumbling ties. Remember, tie is Balder, former evil runes. There may all afterwards live under the same laws the golden tablets they found in the grass. There were of the olden days from Atar's own head. That's Odin, right? That's Thor's own head. So check this out. Isn't this funny? Golden tablets they found in the grass. Isn't that kind of like, did the Mormons steal that? Remember the golden tablets? Oh, no one else can see. I'm just going to look in here. Oh, I lost them, but I haven't committed to memory. Okay, Joseph Smith. Unsown earth may they wax into tilled acres. Baleful things may all better. Even Balder may come to bide there with Adam, Balder that ruffian, on Sig's green tuft. But a well-doing Valtyr, Balder. Know ye yet the Edda? Know ye yet at all? Now, it makes me think that they're referring to the people of the territory as Balder, because at this point, Balder's already gone. This first golden age, a true golden age, not the golden age where they were, from their perspective, where they were reigning supreme, this cult, and doing what they will, abusing the people. That's their golden age. Our golden age is reason, accountability, just laws, and peaceful safety for the people, and guardianship over the land by our ancestors. The first golden age appears to have been, to some extent, an early anticipation of the Victorian bards' longed-for federation of the world. Till the war drum throbbed no longer, and the battle flags were furled. In the Parliament of Man, the Federation of the World. We now have frequent Sumerian seals and sculptures representing the amity existing between the lion and the wolf totems and the goats, in which, metaphorically, the lion lay down with the lamb. See how everything has been co-opted and changed into, it made it obscure? The lion laid down the lamb, and the cattle, or the goat, throve unmolested. And in some of these early carvings and metalworks, objects of art, the sun eagle is given a lion's head, as indicating presumably a certain amount of compromise with the Aboriginal cult. Balder referred to him as Lop the Lion a couple times, which may indicate that he was of Phrygian descent, but perhaps Phrygians typically referred to as the lion-faced people. And in art depicting the Mahabharata, the Vedas, they often are drawn as if they are lion-headed, but I think it just means the way they keep their facial hair. I could be wrong. Advent of the Goths as Sumerians, because remember, our people shaved the upper lip. Advent of the Goths as Sumerians, or early Aryans, into Mesopotamia under Cain, about 33-35 BC, and colonization and civilization of Mesopotamia and of the world, east and west, by Cain and his son Enoch. Cain's son is Enoch, and they're Goths. These are all Gothic people, not Semitic. And disclosing the original of King Arthur's capital of Camelot. The worldwide imperial extension, peaceful penetration, and civilization by the Goths. Hey, baby, you want some peaceful penetration? And civilization by the Goths that now followed under King Cain and his son Heine, or Eno, or Enoch, and their descendants. Yeah, that's also what they do when they put it into their language. They Hebrewify it, Semitize it, and make it into, oh yeah, now that's our guy. They've co-opted and they've superimposed themselves upon our history. And their descendants are indicated in the foregoing couplet of the central lay that over the bowstrings of the world, the asses are the mighty doomsters. Again, I love that. And those achievements are further celebrated in the concluding stanzas of that central lay as cited below. The annexation and colonization of Eden or Karshemish on the upper Euphrates by King Adam Erthor or Sig or George of Cappadocia was followed by the annexation and colonization of the entire plains of Mesopotamia, stretching down south to the seaboard of the Persian Gulf by Thor's son and successor, King Gan or Cain, in the 13th year of the reign of the latter, about 33-35 BC, as fully established by concrete and more or less contemporary inscriptions detailed in my former work, The Makers of Civilization, which is the book we're going to read right after we're done with this one. That one's a little, twice as long, about 700 something pages, pretty close to twice as long. This advent of these civilizing Gothic colonists under King Cain into Mesopotamia is what Assyriologists have called the coming of the Sumerians, a people now proved to be our early Aryan or Nordic ancestors. Karshemish or Eden, standing at the head of the continuous deep channel of the Euphrates near the emergence of that river from the Taurus Mountains onto the Great Plain of Mesopotamia and commanding that central arterial river route, offered a free navigable waterway right down to the Persian Gulf. Along it now streamed down the victorious Goths or Sumerians, civilizing the Chaldees, establishing cities along its course, and bringing the muddy desert into cultivation, the oldest of all the ancient cities of Mesopotamia, including Enoch or Erech. Remember, it was named after the son. Built the city, named it after his son, Cain did. Founded by Cain, being situated on its banks. The city of Enoch, the first Sumerian seaport city capital on the Persian Gulf, the Unuk city of the Sumerians, is recorded by the Sumerian and Babylonian official documents to have been founded by King Dar or Thor's son, the successor, King Gan or Cain, in keeping with the biblical tradition, and fully attested from the ancient Sumerian records in my Makers of Civilization and Race and History. But what did they do? They made them into their people because they're the ones telling the story, and they don't have a history, they don't have accomplishments, so everybody becomes Semitized, and we forget who actually did what. Not for long, though. We're not doing that anymore, are we? Its name also explains the biblical legend that Cain named this city after his son and successor, Enos, son of Enos, or Enoch. For the Sumerian records spell Cain's son's name as both Inu and Inuzu, and this Sumerian Inu is seen to be the source of this aspirated name of Heine in the Edda. Thus, the concluding stanza of the central lay of the Edda sings, "Then the knowing Heine or Enoch, the divining lot woods will choose. And the sons together building shall twain brothers be, even in the wide Phrygia home." Vinda, Phrygia. Know ye yet the Edda? Know ye yet at all? I see a hall stands fair in the sun, thatched with gold at Gimli home. There shall the worthy ones as righteous lords abide, and more than in olden days enjoy endless bliss. Yeah, we could use a little bit of that. There comes in the Riki or king, at the judgment of the rulers, overflying Lord. The overflying Lord counsels them all. He balances the judgments, he allays scathes, and sets up sacred laws that shelter forever. Protect. Now, the name Gimli or Gimel, here cited as the original of the famous Camelot, or Camelot city capital of King Arthur's legend. Rise of Man and His Regeneration by King Adam again. Such a stupendous rise of man and his regeneration achieved by King Adam, Erthor or Arthur, as is here recorded in the Nordic Edda epic, preserved by the ancient Britons, and fully confirmed in early and nearly every detail by the more or less contemporary official, inscriptional, and pictorial records and traditions of the Sumerians, Babylonians, Hittites, and Egyptians, a rise from the old lower to the new higher grade of intellect, morality, and culture, and not vice versa. is in strict agreement with the laws and facts of evolution in nature as established by science and especially by modern science. It is, moreover, in agreement with modern experience on the relatively rapid elevation of primitive tribes by a colonizing ruling race of vastly superior culture. Hey, something for us to be proud of. I mean, they robbed us from that by claiming it was all them. And then codifying it in religious books where people would never question it because they'd be fairy tale. And sometimes throughout history, we see that, it's enforced by blade should you question or challenge it. It is perhaps scarcely necessary nowadays to recall the fact that some 100,000 years before the Adamite epoch, the men of those days, as evidenced by their fossilized remains and the rude stone weapons by their side, lived in the lowliest primitive state and little above the beasts with whom they fought for existence, and that they warred against and slew each other scores of thousands of years before the birth of Cain. Yet from those times down to the later prehistoric period, they are found to have been steadily, though slowly, rising in the scale of humanity. Adam's higher civilization also is significantly represented in the Edda as not having originated de novo with himself, though he was the first great propagator and developer of it and its lofty ideals on a worldwide scale. Right, he came from the shields. The shields were the guardians and protectors. Yes, they conquered and established territories, but for the benefit of all. They didn't murder the inhabitants. They brought them up to speed and taught them laws and being civilized, right? The Edda describes Adam's Aryan European Gothic forebears in the Danube Valley as having already advanced in civilization far beyond the other tribes of the world in that rich and temperate region. And he himself is recorded as saying, "I am the son of a civilized green branch." His transcendently glorious achievements for the uplift and progress of humanity, dimly remembered by the classic Greeks under his epithet of Prometheus, which they brutalized, right, are now seen to be that after winning the first emperorship over the chief part of the old world. And this is what he's being punished for. This very achievement is what Prometheus is symbolically being punished for, which is uplifting mankind from the gods, which aren't gods. Like you're stealing the fire? No, that was robbing the murderous moon cult, the Saturn moon cult, the serpent wolf cult, from their power. That's going against the quote-unquote gods. They're demons. Their, there, as in they are conjuring these things and never had an actual concept of gods or of creation until they made contact with us. It's the emperorship over the chief part of the old world, Asia Minor and Upper Mesopotamia, with its stronghold of the debasing matriarchist cult and demonist superstitions. He, with rare compassion, foresight, and tact, successfully devoted his genius and entire energies to the uplifting of the less favored races on a permanent basis for all time. He established. Now, you could look back and say, did they deserve it? Well, the attempt was necessary, right? Because if you even make it halfway to being civilized, you're less of a danger to others. He established a reign of law and justice, free institutions with parliament, marriage. Let me say this again. This is 5,000 years ago. He established a reign of law and justice, free institutions with parliament, marriage with home life. This is his introduction. It's not something that came from other people that claimed so. Marriage was a concept we brought to a debaucherous, orgiastic, and rapacious cult. Marriage with home life and the bringing of easy fire production to the home hearths. Hence, Prometheus stealing the fire. Agriculture and the industrial stage, with arterial highways for commerce and presumably a mercantile marine, as he was the son of a sea king at home on the sea, according to both the Eddic and Sumero-Babylonian records, and the traditional inventor of sailing ships, according to the Greek Prometheus legend. Now, do you hear all these accomplishments and accolades? Have you ever seen what they say Moses was responsible for? He taught everybody everything, even the Egyptians. Right. Okay. Well, I think we understand why they did that now. Science and the quest of truth in the study of natural phenomena, writing by the linear picture signs now called Sumerian, which I have shown. Let's see, did I stop some? The Greek Prometheus legend. Yeah, okay. Inventor of sailing ships according to the Greek Prometheus legend. Science and the quest of truth in the study of natural phenomena. This is all stuff that were being done 5,000 years ago. Can you believe that? Writing by the linear picture signs now called Sumerian. He introduced writing to the territory, which I have shown to be the immediate parents of our modern alphabetic letters. And we can look at that book too. He wrote a book on that. And the religion of a god of light in heaven, as opposed to the prevailing bestial, sanguinary devils of darkness and hell. That's what they came up with. That's where their heads are at. Torture, sacrifice, favor of the demons, making them powerful through sacrifice. Wow. And he freely admitted the reformed Aboriginal tribesmen into his commonwealth, and thus laid the foundations of democratic institutions and the policy of welding communities of diverse tribes into nations. But remember, if you screwed around, there were consequences. Unlike today, where if you are a piece of shit, they let you back out onto the streets as fast as possible. Who does that? Well, who's in control of our society? Is it Gothic Aryan nobles, or is it this cult? For such almost superhuman reforms and benefactions, it is scarcely surprising that Adam was laterally deified by grateful humanity, meaning all types of ethnicities grateful to him, in profound admiration and reverence, and that his own personal name and traditional majestic personal appearance were given by his descendants and their race, the later Sumerians, Goths, and Hittites, to that Father God of heaven, of whose existence he seems to have been the first to imagine, and with scientific acumen identified with the sun as the visible source of light and life in the world, and gave him the emblem of the cross as a symbol of universal victory, an emblem first introduced into Christianity by the Goths on their conversion into in the 5th century, the crucifix not having originally the form of the true cross, nor its sense of victory. Now do you see why I say what we have before us these days is not my people, not my culture, not my religion? Because this is it right here. They co-opted it. They made a cheap copy, and then they manipulated and controlled people with it. I don't want the cheap copy. I want the original. I want the original from the people who actually sincerely and honestly cared about other humans, that had empathy and compassion, sternness and toughness as well. All the characteristics of a great warrior, a great nobleman. And he is the first to imagine a benevolent creator, and identified the benevolent creator's greatest gift as being the sun, the giver of life, the light of the world, which they literally stole that very phrase from him. The later Sumerians and Hittites, that is, early Aryans, created their father god in the image and name of the man Adam, So, do you see how this goes? The opposite direction of what they said? God made man in his own image? Or did man make their concept of God in their image? So this is it. This is the inversion of that right there. The greatest man and father the world had ever known, and invested him with a solar halo, solar paradise, and thunderbolts. Makes you smile, doesn't it? They called this father god Sac, or Zax, Zeus, and his Sig title in the Edda, Indara, or Ea, Jove, Jupiter, or Father, Jah, Jehovah of the Semites. And these god names persisted amongst the more civilized nations down through the ages and into the Christian period. In the later mythic expanding period, the man Adam was differentiated as Adam, the Son of God, a title which he also bears even in the New Testament. Reactionary, it's getting bad now. 32. Reactionary revival of matriarchy and its mother-son religion with the fall of man in the post-Adamite period. The above picture of Adam's ideal city of God, I'm not sure which one they're talking about, preserved in our pagan, quote-unquote, which is a horrible thing to be calling your ancestors, so preserved in our pagan Gothic ancestors' Bible, which would be the Edda, the knowledge, does not end the Sibyl's lay. For human nature being what it generally is, and not having the capacity for remaining at the height to which it is here represented as having risen during the Adamite epoch, the poem goes on to chronicle a matriarch's reaction and revival under new matriarchs of the mother-son or Abelite cult after the deaths of El and Adam, and adds significantly that she still lives. She does still live, obviously, you can see. What are we dealing with right now? What's destroying mankind right now? For a few hundred years, life was perfect in that territory. Perfect as perfect gets, right? Life's tough, but the wickedly evil were at least cooled out or driven underground into secret societies for a time. Know ye yet the Edda? Know ye yet at all? This is a source of their hiding their identity, their intentions. They're becoming crypto this and crypto that to assimilate into society so that they can maneuver it. All this because of that event. I mined in that folk fight, the first for the homes, when Golvig, the witch, was spear-studded by George, and in the high hall they burned her. Thrice was she burnt, and thrice was she reborn. Though often was the old one made ashes, yet she still lives. So they've had revivals, multiple ones. They've put them all down. It's metaphoric in a way. Was it another matriarchal sorceress, or is it just the same nature as the original? Thus, the last stand. You know that obviously Judaism is a matriarchal cult. They follow the lineage from the mother. Probably have roots here. Thus, the last stanzas of the Central Edda are not merely a vision of primitive felicity, but a parable of the whole tragic course of actual history from Adam's time to our own. Now, I will say this. These revivals wouldn't be happening if there was ever a territory that was completely European. It doesn't have to be completely European. It just has to not have the parasitic element in it, and other people will over time learn to appreciate, maybe, and because they're benefiting from the higher civilization, the higher society, the higher standard of living. And others who cannot stand that they detest that, need to be outside of that society. They can't be in it because it's their unnatural nature to destroy it, to be envious, to be hateful, spiteful. They're not going to appreciate. And listen, look what happens when you bring them anywhere. What did they do in Russia? They were given everything. They were given the oblast. They were given all kinds of territory and land for hundreds of years before they had their Bolshevik revolution and mass murdered over 60 million Christian Russians. That was their way of saying thank you. Torture. Brutal murder. Disfigurements. Gutting people out, making them run around trees with their intestines stuck to it. All kinds of disgusting things that they did. Pouring hot lead into the vaginas of nuns and into the mouths of the priests. There's a great deal more that they did. And what happened in the French Revolution? They teach the rest of the society to revolt against the very thing that protects them, even though not perfect, is the only thing standing between them and total, absolute carnage and chaos. They get the people to revolt through lies, manipulations, and promises, creating a false reality and a false perception. And then once the mob does what it does, it's the battering ram to break open the castle doors. Then they turn on the very people that helped them in and kill them too. The whole tragic course of actual history from Adam's time to our own. It was the recrudescence of the old violence, anarchy, and degraded pre-Adamite superstitions. That's the original sin of our theologians, which eclipsed and from time to time well nigh destroyed civilization during the Dark Ages. Every civilization, Greece, Rome itself, Egypt, so on and so on, all of it. It was the return and rehabilitation under artistic forms of the pre-Adamite tribal demons of the Mother, Son, and Woodinist cult and their hell under the pseudo-monotheism of early and medieval Christianity. Listen to this. That so long retarded the progress of the intellect. He's calling Christianity rooted in the Mother, Son, and Woodinist cult and their hell under the pseudo-monotheism of early and medieval Christianity. That so long retarded the progress of the intellect and the organization of society on a scientific basis. We know that's true. You can't even say what revolves around what, right? Because they'll burn you at the stake for being a heretic. It was the same reaction which, assuming political form, led to the militant medieval feudalism with its barbarous chieftains and brutalized proletariat, so wholly foreign to Adam's model state of constitutional government and brotherhood of man, with parliamentary institutions, scientific religion, ordered progress and freedom, broadening down from precedent to precedent, and still forming the basis of our own modern high civilization. Why do these people want chaos? Because in chaos they can control. And perhaps it is not. See, all they have to do is prey upon the soft-headed. Because the people who are deeper intellects, who have higher comprehension, they understand the benefit and the value of what they have. So those who don't want to try, who want things given to them, who want the shortcuts, who want the cheat codes, they're always going to be susceptible to their rhetoric and convinced that whatever they're told to do to get things, they're going to go ahead and do it. They're going to be chaotic. They're going to fight against things because of their own greed, their own envy. And they basically are adopting the mind of this cult, the mind of the oy vey. Oy vey! That's what poisons things, is they give others the spirit of their personalities, of their mentalities. Hold on 1 second. Let's just look around. Edward Snowman said, I'm glad to find out about the existence of authentic, sane people in prehistoric times. So am I. I looked forever, and all I found were horrible, horrible examples of bad behavior. And I, for so long, was wondering, was there never any truly decent human beings for which I could hang my hat on and say, I want that? Is this something that I and others would have to create in order for it to come into existence? And no, it's this control of the information by these lying liars who lie that gave us that impression in the first place. We have it inherently in all of us. And that's why I also say that we are the Jesuses, because we carry the message. We carry that desire. Now, it's just a matter of taking the proper actions to get it back. I'm so turned off from being a captive audience for megalomaniacs. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what bigger megalomaniac did they do than basically tell you? I mean, I'm not putting down the Jesus man. I'm putting down what they've manipulated followers into believing, that there can be only one, and you got to wait for him to come back. And in the meantime, let us, they don't say that part, let the evil run all over you and just wait for your guy to come back and fix everything. You don't grow like that. You don't even show that you deserve better if you do that. And perhaps it is not too much to believe that most of the disastrous setbacks to higher civilization that Aryanization established by the mighty King Adam Arthur, and much needless wasting of time vainly in futile directions already exploited, might have been avoided or minimized, and more steady and less fitful world progress have been attained if the record of Adam's glorious achievements for the uplift of man and his wise methods of overcoming reactionaries, as preserved in the British Gothic Edda, had been kept clearly in view and not fanatically destroyed and allowed to lapse into oblivion. And we have the early church not to blame for that, to thank for that, I was going to say, but I don't want people to miss the sarcasm here. So what do we know about the 3 Abrahamic death cults? They're all modeled off of this corruption of the concept of a single God that they stole from us. These people don't actually have that belief. They're into demon conjuring at their highest levels. That's the source and core of them. What do they do with each and every Abrahamic religion? They go around and they destroy history. Everything that's quote unquote pre-Islamic gets destroyed. They destroyed, Baalbek? Palmyra. The quote unquote ISIS did that. That's not their own history technically, but it's like saying that they destroyed their own history. They also had the Christians going off. The Christians were doing this too, which were comprised of a lot of who's in the early times and now. And they were destroying all of our documents, all of our monuments. The best way to show that you are the progenitor and creator and arbiter of everything is to destroy all the evidence that is proving to the contrary or showing a better way, giving people ideas that they don't want you to have, an understanding of where you should be, destroyed and eliminated from your minds. For all real progress must inevitably start from the best previous experience. Right. All real progress must inevitably start from the best previous experience. Now, here's my favorite line of this Edda. The message for the future is the message of the past. Exaltation of demonist Woden or Bodo, Sumer Budu or Budin, or serpent-footed by Semites. By Semites. They exalt him. The demonist, the sorcerer, the warlock, the child and human sacrificer, the animal sacrificer, the poisoner, the man of many masks and costumes, the lying liar who lies, by Semites exalted on model of deified Thor. They utilize the outline of Thor, but it has the mentality of Bodin, Bodo, Woden, as the moon god of of the Chaldees and patron of human sacrifice. If you ever hear that element involved in anything that has to do with our people, it's a corruption of our culture. Now, I'm not even 100% sure what they tell us about the Vikings is true anymore. But if human sacrifice was indeed a part of their culture, the moon cult was running the show. They merge into your society. They don't have to advertise. They don't have to make it clear that's what they're doing. They simply need to infect the minds of people and give them the superstitions to start following these archaic practices. And then they win because they've just transformed your culture and society into the thing that they want. They don't care what you call it. They're not concerned about the names or whatever else you're under the false impression of. The more unaware you are, the better. And this is why, again, I outlined that very method in this book, Priestcraft Beyond Babylon. Because I'm mentioning that this is what they do. They're the whisperers in the ears of the Pharaoh and the kings and the czars and the Caesars, guiding them, those with power, to transform their kingdom or their superstitions to more suit their power and goals. The patron of human sacrifice with titles of Patu and Udan, or the luminary. Oh, you mean like the Illuminati? They call him the luminary. Again, it's an insult to Thor's memory to call it the luminary because he was his light of the world concept of the sun was directly attached to the benevolent creator. So now, Ilu Limnu. Remember, Ilu Limnu is the Maskim Hull, which is a grimoire by Michael W. Ford, talking about Babylonian black magic. The Ilu Limnu were, I want to say feminine, wickedly evil, Lilith level, vampiric, demonic presences, sometimes one, sometimes many. And that name Ilu Limnu and Illuminati and this luminary that they're giving to Woden should give you some indication as to what that was all about. Remember, Weishaupt was a son of a rabbi who was a Jesuit, and they infiltrated the lodges, which were mostly Protestant at the time. They infiltrated the lodges. And remember, Jesuits were assigned to basically destroy Protestantism. So now all of a sudden they're in the same lodge together. There's two ways to destroy a person: flip them to destroy themselves, or you just straight kill them. What's more effective? Getting their minds changed into destroying themselves by destroying their own cultures and their own societies. And then also the Frankists were in there. Were in those lodges, and that's what the Illuminati sector growing out of the Freemasons were. They were the Jesuits and the Frankists, which then later became where you get this push for Zionism all out of the Lunar Kabbalah. Erd or Eden, right over here. You see Syria down there. The Red Sea does one of these. All right, so we got some commercials. We have some drawings and images, so we're already at 3:39. Again, I don't know how far I'm going to be able to go, but we're only at 4:41 p.m., so that's good. Versions of the Eddic scenes in Sumerian, Babylonian, Hittite, Egyptian, Grecian, Indian, and Arthurian records. That many references referencing the same story. What does that tell you? That tells you two things. It tells you the same people are traveling around and creating all these civilizations to make this the official record of those territories. It's also saying that this history is super important to them, and it validates the age of the story that was then written down for the Eddas. It validates its truth, its reality of the actual story too. Scene 2. Now this is the appendix. Appendices number 1. So we're going to go into a little bit greater detail here. Scene 2. Coming of Thor, Dardanos, Prometheus, Adam, or Arthur to civilize the world. Remember, these are all the same names for the same guy. Sumerian version of the coming of Adam as King Dar, Thor, or Dan, and his husbandry. The hymns or psalms of the Sumerians, who were the early Aryans or early Goths, as I have shown elsewhere, contain numerous references to the coming of King Dar, or Thor, which was the early spelling of Thor. Remember, the H's are always Romanized. And it has the Sumerian synonym of Dan, Thor's Dan title in the Edda. Two of these hymns sing, Dar, the king, the son of Lord Zeus, he assembles his people in strength to invade the hostile country. Dar, the king, the son of his father, has made them turn the face against distant lands. The god who binds the hosts of the firmament speaks to the Lord, to Dar. Oops. O Lord, a station on high is thy habitation. Odin, right? Thy command changes not. O Lord, the smiter of the mountain, the Daro hero, before whom the foe exists not. They don't exist around that guy, because he'll take him out. Dar, or they'll scurry. Dar, exalter of men, who makes joyful his side. O Lord Zach, counselor, the strength be gifted, Lord of the harvest lands, because he's in agriculture. He was created on the mountains, Lord of the grain fields. Husbandman who tends the fields art thou, O Lord Zach. Now, what they call Baal, who's actually Abel, who's actually Typhon, Balder, remember? If he's Baal, then they call him the fertility god. The god of, and Dagon, his father, is god of grain. The name actually literally means grain, if I'm not mistaken. But where did they steal that from? Who did they superimpose that upon a negative thing that they then go and worship and sacrifice to? But who was the real Lord of the grain fields? Something positive. It was now orgies and child sacrifice are representing that in the old world later on. How disgusting has everything been turned by these wicked, evil, ancestors. This is all they're able to do and all they'll ever be able to do. They have nothing but hatred in their hearts for everything. The reference here to his being the son of his father presumably defines Adam Thor's institution of fatherhood or the patriarchal stage with marriage, which he established, as we shall see, in place of the pre-Adamite Edenite matriarchy, which possessed no marriage nor home life, no succession in the paternal line. That's exactly how they want that too, right? Now, how many taxes are there on? There's a death tax, there's an estate tax, there's a this tax, that tax. They want it all back. Back meaning because they loaned money typically in a wickedly evil way in the first place for you to acquire that which you think you own. And this ancient title for Adam or Thor of the husbandman is obviously the source of the later Semitic legend that Adam delved and dressed the garden. Egyptian version of the coming of Adam and his husbandry. The ancient Egyptians, who derived their civilization, writing, and the roots of most of their language from the colony of early Aryans, the ancient Egyptians, the writing and the roots of most of their language from the colony of early Aryans or Sumerians, as I have shown elsewhere, sung of Adam as Atmu or Atum, and by other titles in their hymns long after he had become deified. They identified him with the sun, which he worshipped, and made his chief shrine at Heliopolis, or the city of the sun, and also called him Hiru, a name which equates with his Eddic title of Air, or Area, which means Aryan, and they seem also to have called him Daru or Dari. They often called him Creator of Men, presumably because he was the first who made men of men. Hold them to a standard, made men of men. I love that too. They refer also to him as maker of corn and maker of herbs of the field, agriculture, presumably from his being the establisher of agriculture and a tiller of the ground. One of these Egyptian hymns sings, "Thou art chief in thy fields, the creator of men and women." And see how that gets transferred over to, oh, the creation. Oh, Adam's the first man. Yeah, Adam's the first man. Okay. First man to make men of men. Sure, I get that part. And that's not even true because his father, one of the shields, who was a seafarer, did a pretty damn good job making Thor who he was, making Adam who he was. Thou who art chief in thy fields, the creator of men and women, the producer of the staff of life, wheat and barley, and the maker of the herb of the fields, which giveth life unto cattle. Thou who comest from the land of the Macha people, thou who art Atmu. Thy names are manifold, many. Thou overthrowest thy enemies. Thou art the great hawk, which gladdenest the body, the beautiful face, which gladdenest the breast. And what did they do with that symbol? They made him the all-seeing eye of Horus, which is actually his son, Cain. He would be Osiris in this, but look what they did to that and bastardized that. Greek version of Adam or Dardan's advent to Troy as Dardanos. Homer, in citing the lineage of Aeneas from the first king of the Trojans, says briefly, "First, Zeus, the cloud gatherer, begot Dardanos, and he established Dardania. For not yet was holy Ilios, old Troy, built upon the plain to be a city of mortal men, but still they dwelt on the slopes of many fountained Ida." On the Dan title for King Thor or Dar in the Eddas, see Scene 5 and later, and on Dan as a Sumerian title of Thor, and on Troy and Dardania in Sumerian, see Appendix 5 and my dictionary. Indian version of Adam, Thor, or Bur's advent. The first king, the first king and Aryan king of the old world, and the inventor of agriculture was, according to both the Vedas, India, and the ancient Indian epics, styled Perthu, Vajana, Vainya, presumably a variant spelling of Thor's Eddic titles of Baroth and Ving. These epics record that at his birth, all living creatures rejoiced. He was resplendent in person as if the blazing deity of fire had become manifest. In his right hand was the disc emblem of the sun god, the wood cross of Thor in the Edda, the sign of a universal emperor. The mighty Perthu Vainya, being invested with universal dominion, soon removed the grievances of the people, oppressed by the Earth Mother. Catch that. Same story, and winning their affections, derived the title of Raha, Regi or of the Edda or king. I didn't bring any water. Oh, hold on. There's some here. Before his time, there were no definite villages or towns, no pastures, no agriculture, the wild fruits and roots forming the only food of the people and procured with great difficulty, often perished during the period of anarchy, and no highways for merchants. All these civilizations originated in the reign of Perthu. In the Vedas, see, they're too the other cultures were too busy being frightened and oppressed by wicked cults that wanted to do harm, and rather than them go out and work and look for things, they'll just wait for you to do it, and then they'll kill you for it. Perish during the period of anarchy. You know what I mean? That's what they're talking about there. In the Vedas, under the name of Indra, i.e. the Sumerian Indara or King Dara, Thor or Yendri, as the father god, is the leader of the Aryan tribes to victory, and is given similar personal human traits to those of Thor or Dar in the Edda. He is often spoken of as having been born. In personal appearance, he is huge, tawny-haired, tawny-beard, fair-lipped, meaning no hair, and his complexion has the ruddy brightness of the sun. He has strong, well-shaped arms and carries, like Thor, a four-cornered bolt in his hand, which is compared to the sun. Gothic race of King Adam, Dar, Thor, or Arthur. The Gothic race of King Adam, or Thor, apart from the Eddic accounts and his detailed genealogy therein, is established from the Sumerian sources in WMC. It is also seen by his Gothic garb and horned headdress and Aryan features in all his representations on the countless Sumerian, Hittite, Phoenician, and Babylonian seals, many of which are figured here, and in the Hittite rock sculptures, and in the more or less contemporary ivory dagger handle. And see this and that. Okay, gotcha. Different versions of Prometheus. Scene 3, Thor, Bermeoth, or Prometheus, Adam's uplifting of man in Sumerian and Greek versions. Sumerian version of Adam, Thor, or Dar's civilizing uplifting of man. In the Sumerian hymns under his title of Lord Adar, his identical title in the foregoing and later Edda, Adam is hailed as the exalter of men, the destroyer of the evil one, a lawgiver and judge. And as of the sun cult, thus in these hymns he is acclaimed. The Daro hero, before whom the foe exists not, Adar, exalter of men, who makes joyful his side, thou who destroyest the life of the evil one, may thy heart be exalted. May the command of the sun god be a command unto thee. Like a judge, direct the world aright. Lead us, guide us. May set the world right. Greek version of Adam, Adam Bermeoth, civilization of the Aborigines of Asia Minor, as Prometheus. Okay, here we go. The memory of Adam Bermeoth as the friend of man and the first great uplifter and civilizer of the early men of the old world survived amongst the Greeks as the Titanic king Prometheus. dialectic for the Eddic Burmioth, who first civilized mankind and brought fire to their home hearths, and whose location was also significantly in Scythia, Caucasia, and Asia Minor. But the poets adopted the late Semitic perversion. Remember, Ptolemy taught these pieces of garbage a Greek education, a high education, learning how to read and write and think in Greek. And what they do? They poison their civilization out of envy, spite, and hate. The poets adopted the late Semitic perversions that he warred against the unjust God of heaven instead of against Satan in hell. The poet Aeschylus, about 500 BC, thus makes Prometheus recite his achievements for the welfare of humanity, which will be seen to be essentially similar to those recorded in the Edda, and the ignorance of the primeval men is also couched in the negative form. Here we go. Don't let this poison your brain. We get enough of the wrong idea. Of humankind, my great offense in aiding them, in teaching the infantile fancy and rousing torpid mind to take grasp of itself, of this I'll talk. Meaning to mortal men, no blame, but only the true recital of mine own deserts. For soothly, having eyes to see, they saw not, and hearing heard not, but like dreamy phantoms, a random life they led from year to year, all blindly floundering on. No craft they knew, with woven brick or jointed beam to pile the sunward porch, but in the dark earth burrowed, being to pile the sunward porch. But in the dark, remember, they were underground in caves and housed like tiny ants in sunless caves. There was a reason for that, though. Remember, they were being attacked and tortured by this moon cult of sacrifice. They were stealing their children. They were stealing them. They were poisoning, robbing, and raping and stealing everything. No signs they knew to mark the wintry year, the flower-strewed spring, and the fruit-laden summer, uncalendared, unregistered, returned, till I, the difficult art of the stars revealed, their risings and their settings, numbers too I taught them, and writing, how by marshaled signs to fix their shifting thoughts, that memory, mother of muses, might achieve her wondrous works. I first slaved to the yoke, both ox and ass. I, the rein-loving steeds, joined to the car and bade them ease the toils of laboring men vicarious. I, the first upon the canvas-winged car of mariner, was launched wave-wandering. Such wise arts I found to soothe the ills of man's ephemeral life. Nor healing food nor drink, nor urgent knew they, but did slowly wither and waste away for lack of pharmacy. Till taught by me to mix the soothing drug and check corruption's march, yet more I probed the earth to yield its hidden wealth to help man's weakness. Iron, copper, silver, gold, and thus with one short word to sum the tale, Prometheus taught all arts to mortal men. Scene 6. Battle of Phrygia in Sumerian and Homeric Greek versions. Sumerian version of the Battle of Phrygia. The ancient Sumerians, or early Goths, also preserved the memory of this epoch-making victory of King Thor, Dar or Adar, over the lion tribe of Phrygia, or Phyrig, in their hymns. Thus we find they sang, the sting of Phyrig, the mighty serpent of Elu, Limnu, wickedly evil, the most evil thing you can comprehend. That's El. Thou, O Dar, removest, making it to turn away from the land. Dar the king, the son of the enthroned Zax, has caused it to turn into itself. He assembles his people in strength to invade the hostile land. Dar the warrior who knows not fear has driven away the pest. Daru, the strong hero before whom the foe exists not, has driven his chariot over the mountain, has scattered wide the seeds. Men have altogether proclaimed his name daily. for sovereignty over them. Homer's version of the Battle of Phrygia. Homer also celebrates this great traditional victory of Thor in Phrygia in his account of the battle of King Atreus in Phrygia with the Amazons. Although with poetic license, he makes Atreus a different individual from Dardanos of Troy, though an ally of the Trojans, with further anachronism of placing his date only about a generation before the fall of Troy. He makes King Priam of Troy say, "Erewhile fared I to Phrygia, the land of the vines, and there saw I men of Phrygia, they of the nimble steed, many. Even the hosts of Atreus and the godlike Mygdon that were encamped along the banks of Sangarios. For I too, being their ally, was numbered among them. On that day the Amazons came, the peers of men." They were women, right? But they were equal in might and combat to the men. This pioneer civilizing conquest of Phrygia by King Midi de Asa or Gieri or Gore or George now explains why nearly all the older historical kings of Phrygia adopted the regnal title of Midas or Gordios. Phrygia is called Rihi or Vrichi in the Indian Vedas and epics. And the Phrygians are referred to as enemies of the Aryans in the Vedas. Scene 9, Eve or Guinevere's marriage with King Adam or Thor in Sumerian, Indian and Greek tradition, and as compared with Genesis. This should be interesting. Sumerian version of the marriage of King Adam and Eve. The Sumerian and Babylonian hymns refer to Adam or Endara's marriage with Eve or Edun and her consecration by him from the Edenite into his higher religion thus. Forever is the lady of the eternal tree thy comrade, the friend. Remember, Freya means friend. That's another one of her names. O lady of plants, mighty plant of heaven, with his pure hands he has established thee. Induru, the divine antelope, has carried thee to a place of purity. With his lustrous hands has he carried thee. With honey and butter has he carried thee. He has laid the waters of prophecy on thy mouth. He has opened thy mouth in prophecy. Like the Lord, like the heart of the Lord, O evil tongue. Wouldn't that be nice? You know, like back then, like it showed you had skill if you could produce certain things, like honey and butter. Could you imagine? Do you think that would work? If you went on a date and like, here's some butter, some honey. Yeah? No. Different versions of marriage of Adam. Genesis version of Adam and Eve's marriage. In the Hebrew Genesis, roll your eyes now, we read, "And Adam said, This is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called Ash, because she was taken out of Aish. Therefore shall Aish leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his Ash, as they shall be of one flesh. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, Guinevere." Here it is seen on comparing the Hebrew text with our English authorized and revised versions that the later Hebrews and our English translators of this Hebrew text have made the personal names or titles of Adam and Aish, the latter form of Aryan Sumerian Az. They didn't want you to know that part, though. A title of Lord Dar, and his Edic title Asa, or Lord, and of Eve or Ash from the Sumerian title of Az or Ash or Azu for Dar's wife, into generic forms for man and woman. Yeah. So now Ash and Aish are man and woman rather than their Aryan connotation or distinction, by equating them to the Semitic Chaldee Ishu and Ishu. Two shishes. one issue and one issue, respectively, and thus effectually disguising the old personal titles in the Hebrew text tradition. And Evie, which is Adam's wife's name in the Edda, as well as in the Hebrew text, is rendered as Eve in our English verses. Marriage and that monogamous with home life and paternity appears to have been first instituted officially by King Adam Thor and as an essential part of his higher civilization. In the pre-Adamite period under the matriarchs of Eden, promiscuity appears to have exclusively prevailed. Adam, moreover, made marriage a contract, and he himself is styled the hallower of marriage and otar of the homesteads. But as we have seen, his own marriage with Eve was by no means the first marriage amongst the Aryans or Goths. Right. Indian version, well, see how the Semites, they need everything to be the first, and they need to claim it for themselves. If you actually believe that whole story about Adam and Eve, there should truly only be Semite or Jews on the planet, or whatever you want to call them, Hebrews. Because who made it? Everybody. Out of Adam and Eve, right? Whatever their ethnicity would be what everybody is. Doesn't make any goddamn sense. This epoch-making marriage is also celebrated in the ancient sacred books of the eastern branch of the Aryans, the Indian Vedas and epics. It is thus summarized in its early Vedic commentary here, wherein Thor or Bur is called by the Sanskrit form of the latter title Puru of the sun, and Eve or Asi or Asin of Ur is called Asi of Ur. Now in the days of yore, the nymph Uru-Asi dwelt with the royal seer Pururanus and have made a contract with him. She lived in wedlock with him. The marriage contract appears to have been a civil contract. The wooing in the Indian versions is made to be done chiefly by Bur or Thor with lovers' quarrels. Thus, in a long old Vedic hymn in the dramatic form of a dialogue between Puru of the sun and Asi of the which is full of archaisms and difficult to translate, the opening and other stanzas read as follows. The reference to devouring wolves seems significant to Eden. Ho thee, my consort, stay thou fierce-souled lady, and let us reason for a while together. Remember, he's the reason gainer. He wants to reason with a woman. That's his first mistake. Such thoughts as these of ours, while yet unspoken in days gone by, have never brought us comfort. Now here's Eve. What am I now to do with this thy saying? I have gone from thee like the first of the dawns. Puru of the sun, return to your home. I, like the wind, am difficult to capture. Go home again, you fool. You have not won me. And then good old Thor says, or Adam says, thy lover shall flee forth this day forever to seek without return the furthest distance. Then let his bed be in destruction's bosom, and there let fierce rapacious wolves devour him. Yeah, that does sound like an indication of the scumbags around Eden. And then Eve says, nay, do not die, Puru of the sun, nor vanish. Let not the evil-omened wolves devour you. With women there can be no lasting friendship. Hearts of hyenas are the hearts of women. That's her saying that. Whoa. As in the Edda and in the Greek legend of her as Aphrodite or Seathroth, Eve as Asi of Ur is described in the Indian epics as sporting in the waters like a swan maiden, and in company with Gandharvas, the Gander weirds of Edda. Remember the magic of Gander weirds of Edda. Greek version of Adam Bermias or Prometheus' marriage with Eve, Asi or Asia. Hold on one second. Let's go back to anything going on over here? Got a couple 2-3 over here. Let's check the commenters. We got Mike Garland in the house. Got Archangel in the house. Hey, everybody. All right. Let's go back to it then. Why does it say save changes? Oh, man. Did it screw up? No, I shouldn't have. Why does it say save changes? That's so weird. I don't know what I changed. I shouldn't be saying that. All right, let's go to it. The memory of Adam Bermioth's marriage with Eve is found amongst the Greeks in their tradition of Prometheus, the Bermioth of the Eddas, as we have seen. His wife was called therein variously Asia, Hessian. Remember Asia? Yeah? Remember there was, you can use Asia, you can use Europa or Europe Essa. Europe Essa? Europa? You see what they're doing here, right? The raping of Europa by Zeus, which is actually be Thor, they transpose onto Balder or Loki as their new god with the same name as Thor, as Zeus. So he's the one who carries off Thor's wife and rapes her. And he comes in the form of a bull. Have we ever seen that? Hold on. Let's go to this. Open up. I'm looking through a thing, so. Yeah, usually something that looks like that. And there's that one right there. Someone got a little graphic. We want to make sure they got that chica on there good. The abduction of Europa, Greek mythology. Later on, we'll go into. Oh, yeah, let's talk about the Rowan apple tree if we come back to it. Oh, let's do it right now. Sorbus acuparida. Rowan British trees is an elegant tree with a mystical history. Its leaves and berries are a favorite for wildlife in woods and towns alike. Now let's get to the next one. Snakebite treatment doesn't say so, but I'm pretty sure. Rowan berries are used in traditional medicine for issues such as sore throats, digestion, scurvy, and as an anti-inflammatory for rheumatism. They have antioxidant and antibacterial properties, but are not recognized for counteracting venom. But they say that they're good for counteracting sorcery. The magic and medicine of the rowan tree, nature unveiled. Both the bark and berries of the rowan tree are often called mountain ash, possess traditional medicinal properties, while the root is not typically cited for medicinal use. The bark is used for its astringent properties to treat diarrhea and wash wounds. Washing wounds is another reason why you might take it into battle. While the berries are known for treating coughs, colds, and digestive issues. The bark, traditionally used against stringent berries, highly nutritious, rich in vitamin C and antioxidants. They are used in traditional medicine for colds, flu, sore throats, rheumatism, and gout. Apparently, you have to cook them and freeze them before you eat them. Otherwise, they are poisonous to a degree. Leaves used in some traditional remedies for sore eyes, coughs, and diarrhea. Let's see. The tree is renowned in folklore for protecting against evil spirits, with wood, twigs, and bark often used in protective rituals. Why would that be? Seems a little strange, right? The rowan tree, often called the tree of life, it's often called the tree of life, is a sacred symbol in Celtic mythology, representing protection, wisdom, and the connection between living things. Renowned for its bright red berries marked with a tiny pentagram. A tiny pentagram in resilience is historically associated with warding off evil and guiding souls. Warding off evil and guiding souls. And also guides you. And remember, he takes it's showing him how to get places, like a divining rod or like a GPS that's actually talking to him at one point. So it's maybe some sort of device and his rowan stick. Mythology and symbolism, known as the goddess tree, it is linked to druids and is believed the early druids, not the Hebraic or Hebrew ones, the early druids did not practice human sacrifice at all. That was a corruption. Just remember that. It were our people back then. Then they got corrupted and co-opted. And they kept on with the priestcraft, but they were not the same people. They were this cult of child sacrifice, and that's when they introduced the Wicker Man and stealing children and burning them alive and all that shit. Known as the goddess tree, it is linked to the druids and is believed to guard against enchantment. Norse legend suggests it saved the god Thor. It's not a Norse legend. It's not even close to a Norse legend. It's Cappadocia. Traditionally planted near homes and graveyards to keep away malevolent forces, it is often associated with the Tree of Life. Its berries, rich in vitamin C, we already saw that, are jellies. It is important to note that rowan is separate species from the apple. Okay. One of them said you have to cook it. Helps to reduce inflammation. All the things you probably didn't know about it. Maybe you did. I don't know. Everybody still good on this side? Cool. All right, let's go back to it. Her name is variously called Asia Hessian or Euruf Essa, now seen to be merely varying phonetic spellings of the Edic Asi or Essen, of Eor or Erd, the Queen As of Urdu of the Sumerian, and the Urv. Is it Uru or is that a V? It's Uruasi of the Indian versions. In his graceful Greek poem, Aeschylus, in describing Prometheus as lying wounded and bound by his enemies, introduces his wife's brother Oceanos as a visitor who recalls the festive wedding of Prometheus with his sister Hesione in these words. What diverse strain I sang thee then, around the bridal chamber and around the bridal bath, when thou, my sister fair Hesione, won by rich gifts, didst lead from ocean's caves thy spousal bed to share. Here it is noteworthy that Hesione, or Eve, is again called Oceanid, or of the sea froth kin, where her family, her father was said to be a great seafarer. Cain's birth and so remember, she was not related to Baldur or Woden. She was only a daughter in the sense that she was a vestal of that cult. Cain's birth and boyhood in Sumerian, Egyptian, Indian, and Greek tradition. Sumerian version of Cain, son of Adam or Dar, as the great Sumerian emperor Gan or Khan. So how about this? We've got Gothic Aryan Adam, and we have a Gothic Aryan Amazonian Eve. That seems like a great start to mankind's building of civilization, don't you think? Let's see. Sumerian version of Cain, son of Adam, as the great Sumerian emperor Cain or Khan. The name Cain of the English version of the Hebrew Old Testament, spelled in the Hebrew Qain, is now found to be a corruption of the Sumerian name of Adam or Darson, the great Sumerian emperor Gan or Kan, who was the famous establisher of the agricultural stage of the world, and who bore the regnal names of Bacchus, his Bauge title in the Edda, the historical human origins of Bacchus, afterwards deified by grateful humanity as the lord of plants and wine. And remember, in the scenes in the Edda, he is the master of ceremonies at the inn, right? He's the pourer. He's the guy conducting. So he would be seen as like the god of wine in that sense. Actually, mead, but they changed it to wine. A fact which is even reflected in the Hebrew Genesis, which says, Cain was a tiller of the ground. He is also frequently referred to as the Sun Duke, Marduk, and the Emperor Azag. Cain in Egyptian tradition. Similarly, the ancient Egyptians, whom I have shown were a colony of Sumerians in race, speech, hieroglyph writing, and culture also called him Khan, Lord of the Corn and Wine, with the synonym of Basa or Bacchus. And I have established his identity with Khonshu, a title of Horus or Heru, the son of Osiris. Horus, the first Aryan king. It's Osiris, the first Aryan king. So, where were we at? So remember, not Bacchus, the depraved, disgusting individual for Bacchanalia is named, but Dionysus Bacchus. Cain in Indian tradition. Similarly, the Indian or Eastern branch of the Aryans called him Lord Gan or Ganesha. Remember, Ganesh was an elephant? Isn't Ganesh an elephant? Like, what the hell are they worshiping an elephant for? That's before we understood totems. And I believe bull in the old writing, an elephant was named the same, or referred to as being similar to them. As Lord of Grain and Wealth, and also Basu, i.e. Bacchus, and his birth is described in the Indian Purana epics. Cain and Homer. He is, moreover, disclosed as the historical original of Dardanos' son, Erichthonius, or the Great One of the Earth, a fitting title for him as the extender of agriculture and the human original of Bacchus or Dionysus. His capital was Unug or Enoch, Cain's city of Enoch or Erech of the Genesis account in Lower Babylonia, and Greek tradition credits Dionysus with building a bridge across the Euphrates. Homer records his birth and his famous horse stud significant in regard to Cain's Eddic title of the Rider. Though the Rider. Then Dardanos begat a son, King Erichthonius, who became the richest of mortal men. 3,000 mares had he pastured along the marsh meadows, rejoicing in their tender foals. Cain as Lo the Rider is frequently celebrated in the Edda, as we have seen. Cain also in series with his Eddic title of the Dispenser of Mead and his Sumerian titles of Bacchus or Bacchus is celebrated by Homer as Gainy Mead or Gainy Cain of the Mead, and cupbearer of Zeus. He's the cupbearer of his father, though made by Homer anachronistically to be later descendant of Dardanos. And in the Edda, we have seen that Cain is the cupbearer to King Dardan or Thor and his lords. Cain in the Arthur and Irish legends as Gawain and Con. The identity of Con or Cain with King Arthur's son Sir Gawain is fully established in the next scenes. In the late Arthurian legend, Gawain has been generally conjectured by the later bards to have been the nephew of King Arthur, but he is now clearly seen to be his son. The young hero Con or Cain, the equal of 9 men in the above Edda and the equal of 900 men in the later Edda, is now disclosed as the historical original of the Irish sun hero Con, the fighter of 100. Adam's Decalogue in Sumerian, Babylonian, Indian, and Hebrew versions. Adam's Decalogue regarding Sumerian, Hittite, Babylonian, Hebrew, and modern codes. This old Adamite traditional Aryan Gothic code, with its lofty ethical rules of conduct and principles of equity, seem to be an expansion of Adam's first and greatest commandment, brothers must not battle. The provision of arms for self-defense outside Gothland was mentioned in the 10th merely as a necessary practical precaution against the truculence of the savage tribes of the old pre-Adamite world. The Sumerian hymns credit Dar or Sig with being a lawgiver. O Dar, thy command changes not. May the command of the sun god be a command unto thee. Like a judge, direct the world aright, O Lord Sac, Counselor. Oop. This Adamite code, as preserved in the Edda, also gains Sumerian confirmation by the titles and functions of King Dar, Bur, Mid, or Mithra, the Eddic Miat, or Meti, by their Sumerian definitions as holder of the styles of law, Lord Judge of the land, and compassionate counselor. This last title, occurring also in the Sumerian hymns, is significantly in literal agreement with the Eddic term counsel for his commandments. This Adamite Decalogue is obviously the basis of the later Decalogues of the imperial Kati or Hittites of Asia Minor, which are now admitted to be the source of the Babylonian code of the sun-worshipping king Hammurabi. And we'll get into Hammurabi too. He was also Aryan, who claimed, definitely not a Semite, who claimed to have received it graven on tables of stone from the hand of the sun god, and later codes down to the Roman and British, and through the Babylonian of the ethical portions of the Mosaic Decalogues, which are now generally regarded as having been borrowed from the old Babylonian in the captivity period. Yeah, like that's a thing. Yeah. All right. If you find somebody repulsive, do you really want to keep them, or do you want them to go somewhere else? Yes, we hate these people. Let's get a bunch of them together. Along with the legend of attaching to them, of having been granted by the hand of God. Sure. Yeah, the hand of Thor, buddy. The number 10 was... The number 10 was presumably fixed on by Adam for the convenience of telling off the commands orally on the fingers of the hands and teaching them to his people, and to enable them to memorize them more readily. This tenfold or decalogue category runs through most of the ancient Aryan ethico-religious systems. Thus in Buddhism are the 10 principles of right conduct, the 10 perfections, 10 stages of Buddhahood, 10 fetters or errors to be corrected. In Brahmanism are 10 virtues of initiation, 10 sins, 10 mental restraints, 10 forms of the sun god Vishnu, 10 horses of the sun, 10 fire worshippers, 10 priests, etc. Pythagoras, a native of Asia Minor, taught the 10 virtues of initiation and made the number 10 representative of the sun and of heaven. And it seems re-echoed in the 10 righteous men sought for in vain by Abraham, and in the 10 talents of the worthy servants referred to by Christ. Indian references to Adam's law or commandments. Under his title of Purthu, the Indian epics record that the first king is a speaker of truth, bounteous, a keeper of his promise. He is wise, benevolent, patient, valiant, compassionate, king-spoken, and a terror to the wicked. He cherishes the good, and in administering justice is indifferent to friend or foe. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. It doesn't matter about whether he likes you or not. That's fair justice. But listen to this. All these wonderful things: keeper of his promise, wise, benevolent, patient, valiant, compassionate, which means empathetic. Also, kind-spoken, powerful but kind, and a terror to the wicked. All those things are kind, great, wonderful, but don't be a piece of shit. He cherishes the good, and in administering justice is indifferent to friend or foe. How could you see this as being anything different than all the character traits that they want you to see in a God or in a Jesus? So even people who are completely wickedly evil and are consumed with their hatred for everything, it's easy for them to take a template and then transpose it and then sell you a person of all those things and then steer you in different directions that they want to take you. Hebrew confirmation of Adam's Decalogue. What appears to be Hebrew confirmation for this Edda in regard to Eve being traditionally associated with the propagation of these 10 commandments of Adam, which were diametrically opposed to and directed against It was directed, yeah, they were written against the serpent cult of Eden. Seems to be found in the 10 curses to be pronounced against Eve, as prescribed in the Talmud. Well, what do you know? These would now seem to be a counterblast against Adam's 10 commandments, in propagating which Eve took an active part, as recorded in the Edda. We need to go back to that part. Remember what the 10 commandments were? What? Don't trust these fuckers ever, is basically the main theme. Never trust or turn your back on, rest yourself around these demonic cults, this demonic cult of human and child sacrifice. They can't be trusted. They can't be rehabilitated. They're not good people. The forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge is, and giving it, let's go away. And the Hebrew story of Eve eating the apple as the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge and giving it also to Adam to eat is now seen to be a perversion of the fact that Eve became a votary of King Adam's rival and superior cult of righteousness, with its sacred emblem of the rowan apple and its tree growing in his own garden in Cappadocia and not in Eden. They didn't like the plant. They didn't like the fact that it warded off evil, that broke their spells or whatever, or that it was some sort of neutralizer or treatment for the poisons that they were concocting when they used them in battle, which included snake venom. So that was forbidden because it was an antidote to their bullshit and their poisons. And that's what King Adam Thor had growing in his Cappadocia, not in Eden. Perhaps the archaic Hittite rock sculpture of the marriage of King Adam and Eve at his capital in Cappadocia, representing Eve as if offering a large apple to Adam, seen and misinterpreted by an early Hebrew merchant, or deliberately misinterpreted by an early Hebrew merchant unable to read the Hittite hieroglyphs, may have been the basis of the Genesis legend of the temptation of Adam by Eve. So when somebody gives you a gift, oh, we don't like that girl because she left our cult. So everything they do must be negative. She was a vile temptress. Fucking retarded. Only sick people have sick thoughts, Wounding of Adam Thor by Abel in the Greek Prometheus, Indian, Egyptian, Osiris Set versions, and in Lion and Unicorn legend. Greco-Semitic perverted version in Prometheus. The Prometheus bound legend. Whilst the earliest Greeks retained the true tradition of this event in their Zeus Typhon legend, as above figured and described, the later Greek myth-mongering bards adopted the spiteful. Look at it. It's always a spiteful Semitic. It's never the happy Semitic, is it? The spiteful Jew fucking string of perversions, and Adam as Prometheus, although admittedly a noble and righteous hero and the best friend of the and champion of mankind, was fighting against Zeus of heaven himself, who in revenge against Prometheus, Prometheus' sin of stealing fire from heaven. This is what this cult does. They didn't like that we uplifted mankind and taught them a better way of life, away from the constant torment and torture and abuse and the risk of human sacrifice that these demonic sorcerers were doing. We put an end to their reign. And this is how they turned it around. So we did all these things. We uplifted man, but that was going against their demons or their power, so they call it a going against God. But now who's God? Well, they had to change God or Zeus, if you will, or Thor into two different people. Kind of. They transferred him into Prometheus, whom they will now torture, and they made Zeus Abel. They made Zeus Typhon. They made Zeus into this asshole character. The devil, basically. And then Zeus ends up becoming the devil, their demon god. to benefit mortal men and refusing to cease befriending man. Why would gods want you to befriend man? It's not gods that don't want you to befriend man. It's this sick, disgusting cult that doesn't want you befriending man. Now think about this in the line of Jesus, okay? Listen. Who revenge against Prometheus says Prometheus' sin of stealing the fire from heaven to benefit mortal men and of refusing to cease befriending man, nailed down that hero to a rock in Scythia and kept him there enchained in perpetual torture forevermore. What do you carry around as a Christian? Is he off the cross or is he there forevermore? Is he pinned to it? Nailed to it? Here are the malicious Semitic... what happened to his side? Did somebody stab him with a spear? What happened to Prometheus? Here the malicious Semitic wish to harm Adam's memory was clearly father to the thought. But even these later Greek bards are forced to admit, besides the appalling injustice of such a story, that this so-called Zeus was not the grand universal and eternally just father god of that name of Homer, but was, on the contrary, a new god and vindictive, unjust, unrighteous, lustful, cruel, and jealous. Gee, that sounds exactly like it. Wavy. That he was, in fact, merely the old, malignant, Semitic El-Wooden Satan, to whom the Semites had coolly transferred Adam's title of Zeus, and whom they had pitchforked from hell into heaven. They exalted him, and they're used as a bogey to revenge themselves on Adam's memory. If they can't get you in real life, they'll shit story tell until other people believe it, and then they convert and pervert the entire belief system of civilizations. Even the manner of wounding is perverted. Prometheus is chained and nailed by iron stakes to a rock instead of being temporarily felled by a piece of sharp rock and iron or tang to his head. Significantly also, the agent of this Semitic Zeus who wounds and nails Prometheus is Vulcan of the Hellfires, with Cyclops ogres as his servants, and his sacred animal, the dog, the domesticated wolf, right, the wolf tribe, and he was the maker of Pandora's box, out of which issues all the ills which beset mankind. Not a very good Zeus. And thus he was merely a thinly disguised reflex of soot, of Abel, who was poisoning the people, who was torturing and tormenting them in real life. Moreover, this late Greek tale of his agonizing fettering of Adam in everlasting torture so that no savior will appear is the identical phrase used in the Indian version of the same mother-son cult. And what were they doing? What were they picking at the liver? Liver's right about here. Okay, picking at the liver. The vultures or whatever the hell they were, crows, ravens, picking the liver of Prometheus in eternal torture, right in the same spot that they say they wounded Jesus. Is he dead? Poke him. The poet Aeschylus makes Vulcan, with a pretense of pity, say, "My heart shrinks back from the hard task to nail a kindred god to this storm-battered crag. High counsel," because he's up against the rocks and the waves are crashing, right? The storm-battered crag. "High-counseled son of right-decreeing Themis, I force myself no less than thee, when to this friendless rock with iron bonds I chain thee, where no shape nor voice of wandering mortal shall relieve thy lonely watch. But the fierce burning sun shall parch and bleach thy flesh complexion. Thou, when moltly mantled night hath hid the day, shalt greet the darkness with how short a joy. For the morn sun, the nightly dew shall scatter, and thou be pierced again. They even use the word pierced again, with the same pricks of endless woe, and Savior shall be none." He's in hell. He might as well be boiling in feces. This is what the Semites do. This is what they do to everything. Oh, by the way, March 2nd is the at sundown is the beginning of the Purim. Let's hope that they, let's see. Is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year they actually let loose and actually have their Purim on the Purim and go round up people for saying things that are logical, rational, and real concerns on the internet, and calling that anti-semantic? Who knows? But fuck these people. And fuck the president that does their bidding, and anyone else who is on those files or in those documents harming children. Enough is enough already. Indian versions as the wounding of Mitta of Vind. This hitherto unrecognized Indian version of the Prometheus bound legend is recited by Buddha in his sermons, and significantly Adam or Prometheus bears therein his Eddic title of Miat or Miath of Vind. In Phrygia, that's Mitta of Vind, and his assailant is called Satan, Loki, Abel. We get it, right? Baal. Buddha, the Indian pessimistic ascetic teacher of the 5th century BC, was the namesake of Bodo, Bauta, or Woden, and appears to have been somewhat matriarchist in his sympathies. Right. He didn't like Indra, saying that he had gone against the mother cult. And he also fancied himself as being a serpent. This is Buddha we're talking about now. Buddha is a piece of crap. He thinks he's a Woden. It appears to have been somewhat matriarchist in his sympathies, though, excluding women from his order. He was especially contemptuous of Indra, i.e. Adam, as a deified Indara. And in the tales which he used to illustrate his sermons and his imaginary former births, I love how he just gave him a jab there, his imaginary former births, he claimed to have been the son of Maya, or the Earth Mother. So he would be Balder. He would be this piece of shit. He would be the Lucifer. So this is what Buddha was saying. Who dwelt in the byre with cattle. Now, does it make sense that how sick and twisted like the Dalai Lama is? Does this make sense? And how materialistic their cult is? They're doing them. I don't even want to repeat it, but I got it stuck in my head for so long. It's a weird mantra chant, and it's basically asking for the end of the world. It's they're not good people. All right. Dalai Lama doing some weird things with children too. Anyhow, who dwelt in a byre with cattle, i.e. the matriarch Maya of the Edda, and the illegitimate son of the widow. Illegitimate son of the widow, right, so that makes him Balder. Woden would have been his father, and El was his mother. Such as Sutter Balder is called. He also disapproved of marriage. This is Buddha. And home life. And deserted his own wife. And claimed to have had several former births as a serpent. A symbol of the cult. That's Buddha. Fuck Buddha. In his tale of Mitta of Vind, Buddha relates that the Mitta of Vinda was an unbeliever in the religion of his mother and refused to keep her full moon holy day. She was a child killer, presumably the lunar cult, and left her. So yeah, he refused. He was never part of it. But in consequence of these sins, he eventually, after dwelling in places, reached hell. Of course he did. Another retelling of bullshit. There, a Sata threw a fiery revolving razor wheel at him, which stuck in his skull, causing him grinding torture based on the time that Balder hit him with that it was a fiery piece of something. And then Cain pulled it out of his head. Buddha, who also visited the hell, cordially agreed with the punishment in a speech in which he calls himself king of the devas or devils. He calls himself this, Buddha, saying, the wheel shall roll and on shall roll. No savior shall appear. Oh, that sounds like Prometheus. Fixed on thy head till thou be dead, O Midda of Vinda here. No more to dwell in island places of crystal silver or of sparkling gems. That sounds a little envious. With flinty headgear thou'rt invested now, nor shall its grinding torture ever cease till all thy sin be purged and life shall end. What an asshole. All right. We're at the page 358. I'm not leaving yet. I gotta get up and do a thing. I need more water. I'm drying out here. Everybody still good? Cool. All right. Let me go ahead and I gotta put something on while I go do the thing.
Okay, so we continue.
Not that. Let's see if I got anything in my history. I don't want to change the mood too much. This is kind of annoying that I have to get up and do this. This piece of shit. This guy. Every major national socialist group, you mean? Oh no, actually these are Nazis. Most of these are, yeah. Most of those are actually creations of the ADL and intelligence agencies. So okay, I'll give you that one. They didn't even show the ones I most recently watched. But oh, that's why. Most recently watched. Wait, there you are, or what? All right. They're all going to be stupid, in a sense. All right, you know what? We'll put this on for a second. We'll talk to this guy. Where's he at? Just give this a second while I go do a thing with the thing.
Do you think that there's a chance of
It's a good man. It's a good man here. So maybe this is actually the most relevant thing I could put on, right?
improving Libya's relations with Britain?
No, because Britain is following America. We consider Britain is a colony for America. The existence of Britain in the north of Ireland is the existence of colonization. And these people fight to get rid of this colonization. It is just a fight, and we support it.
Hopes for better relations with countries in Western Europe, including Britain, the United Kingdom, but better relations with them, better relations with the United States, those are the sort of areas that I'd like to talk about. So that, I think it'd be rather nice if we could hear some words from you in English.
Okay.
Okay, right. Thank you, Anne. Leader, we were watching your ceremony yesterday on the border with Tunisia. What is the significance of what happened yesterday, the breaking down of that border post?
Naturally, there is no border between Tunisia and Libya, because Tunis is a city, which is the capital now. And Libya, we never heard about this word, only after the Italian occupation. The Arab land is one home for all Arabs. Colonization made these borders to divide our people, Arab people, and to divide our one land. Now we are independent. We have to get rid of this effects of the colonization. It is what I did yesterday.
What about breaking down other borders? Are you hoping that you will break down borders with other Arab countries?
We will try. We'll try.
You recently removed some of the troops from the border with Egypt. Is that with the idea of breaking down that border as well?
Yes.
Leader, do you see Libya as taking a very important role in trying to get Arab unity? Do you think Libya has an important role to play in this?
Yes, because the revolution, and because of the position of the geographic position of Libya in the middle of the Arab world.
Sorry, can we stop from here?
Never mind.
Sorry? It's okay?
Never mind.
Sorry. So you think, is that right? So you think that because of Libya's position, it has a very important role to play?
Yes, and because of the revolution in Libya, Great Fatah revolution.
How did the revolution help that then? Could you explain that to me? How did the revolution help Libya's importance, Libya's role in the region?
And the revolution made this country free and can't decide anything. And because we are free, our first decision is to unite our nation. And any other country, be an independent and free like Libya, will do the same.
Is that important, in particular, because of Israel? Is that the reason why Arab unity is so important?
If there is Israelis or not, it is nature thing. We are a nation like Italy, like Germany, like France, like Britain. It is the natural thing to be one country. You see, Italy was divided in kingdoms and the Republic and so on. And in days of Garibaldi and Mazzini and Cavour, they united this divided country. The Arab world must be one country, like Italy, like France, like Britain.
Do you think that Libya has an important role to play in trying to get a Middle East peace settlement? And I'm talking now particularly about a settlement with involving the Israelis?
No, neither Libya nor any other country on other side. There is no possibility. There is no possibility for peace because Israelis or Jews established a state in Palestine, and they denied Palestine itself geographically, and there is a Palestinian people, and also they denied there is a people which is Palestinian people, and they are armed camp, and now they obtained nuclear weapons, and imperialism are behind them. It is not easy for all these aggressive parties to leave Palestine for the Palestinian people. It is not easy, unless by force.
But what about the possibility?
Okay, that's a taste of what this interview is. It's yeah, check it out. It's called Muammar Gaddafi extended interview in English, 1988. All right, here we go. Yeah, it's 5:57. I've got about a half hour. The British Edda, continuing on page 358. Wodenist perversion of the event. The Wodenists, headed by the Icelander Snorri, seized with avidity on the wounding of Thor. Right. All these people, all these freaking degenerates, jumped all over the story to tell it in their own fucked up way. The archenemy of Woden. Remember, he's a Wodenist by choice. This douchebag who's told everybody the world over the story of Thor through his eyes, through his mistranslations and deliberate biases. The archenemy of Woden, and disregarding the text, retailed a fable making the stone missile stick irremovably in Thor's skull, causing him everlasting agony. This is in series with the late Prometheus and the above Indian versions. Celtic perversions of the event in British Royal Arms. A curious survival of the Prometheus bound version is seen in the lion and unicorn emblem of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, in which the unicorn, introduced by King James I from Scotland, is represented chained and manacled. The unicorn, as I have shown elsewhere, is the royal goat or goat antelope emblem of the great King Adam Thor, as seen in the ancient Hittite sculptures at his capital. Kids, unicorns do exist. They're Goths with the goat emblem. That's the unicorn. It's not a freaking horse. Seen in the ancient Hittite sculptures at his capital and on Sumerian, Hittite, Babylonian, and Phoenician sacred seals, and repeatedly referred to in the Sumerian and Indian Vedic hymns, as well as the Edda. In its later Scots and English representations, the heraldists have ignorantly transformed it into a one-horned horse, and presumably under Celtic, i.e., Chaldee. See, they're relating 1-to-1 ratio. The Celtic in differentiation from the Scottish, which I haven't seen anything indicating that they were as manipulated by the moon cult, these child killers, as the Celts have been. So that's something to think about when you're like, oh, they practice Wicca and it's all this shit, and it's all Wodenist bullshit. And they're trying to tell you it's not good. It's white magic. No, white magic comes from Italy. White magic comes from folk magic. It's not this. It's that's apologetic so that you accept it. But it's really, even if the people don't realize it, it's guided by something freaking dark. So it says, presumably under Celtic, i.e. Chaldean or Chaldee Semite priestly influence, probably Druid. Remember what I told you what happened with the Druids of the Gothic Aryan type versus the Hebrew Druids who came around and brought about human sacrifice, child sacrifice specifically. They hate us and they want us to suffer, so they take the children. Have chained it by the neck in its relation to the adversary, the mauler, the Chaldee lion, the symbol of the raving son of Mother May. S-O-N, not S-U-N. The ravening, sorry. The Welsh or Cymric Britons, however, with purer traditions, have rightly retained it in its original unfettered form of the invincible Gothic goat as their national mascot. Go Welsh. Go Cymric Britons. Egyptian version. In the Egyptian version, as altered by the polytheistic priests who, like the Chaldees, had erected the Semitic wolf fiend chieftains, meaning Balder, Set, right? Abel, into a god. The event is made to be the murder and mutilation of the solar father king Osiris of the Greeks. It was Asar, apparently, before Osiris, whose name is derived from one of the Sumerian titles of Thor. The arch enemy of Thor in Egyptian is his brother, quote unquote brother, not real brother, right? Not a real brother. The wolf-headed fiend called Set. This is what these freaking scumbags worship. If you ever want to know, if you ever actually care, when they're talking about Yahweh and all these other nonsense, Yahweh is Set. Yahweh is Balder. Yahweh is based off a human. The demonic deity of the what do you call it? The desert storms. That's Set. That's Balder. That's Loki. That's Lucifer. That's Baal. All right. So the archenemy of Asar or Thor in Egyptian is the wolf-headed fiend called Set, a name spelled by Plutarch as Seth in series with the Hebrew, and identified by him with the storm fiend Typhon. Right, Typho. Evidently cognate with the Eddic title of Ty for Balder as the wolf chief. This wolf fiend, Set, or Typhon, is made to kill Osiris by drowning and afterwards cut up his body into 14 pieces. This is their hatred. If they can't get you in real life, they'll get you in story. The word. The spell. He is represented with a wolf's head and carrying a tanged or saw-like weapon. Irish version of Abel as Fall of the Fiery Stone Wheel. Fiol as one of the dialectic forms of in this Edda of the name of Baal or Balder, Balder, as the professor of this Hellball, identifies him with Fall of the Fiery Stone Wheel of the Irish Scots legends, in some of which the stone is called the Razor Wheel. And significantly, he appears to have been surnamed in those legends Lug, Abel's surname of Loki in the Edda. This falls or fails, maybe it's because it's got a line over there, maybe it's fails. This fails stone wheel is in those legends is associated with Khan the 100 Fighter, who we have seen was Khan or Cain, who extracted the missile, and who perhaps kept it as a trophy, as he never appears himself to have used it as a missile in the Irish legend. Ducking of Thor by Soot or Seth Abel in Babylonian and Egyptian versions. Babylonian version of Adamu, the son of God, defeating Seth for capsizing him when fishing on the sea. Striking confirmation of the authenticity of this Eddic tradition of Adam Thor. Sometimes it's more confirmation when they do the polemic lie, because it's showing that story number one was already around during that time, and that they were so spiteful of it that they would made alterations and flip the script. Striking confirmation of the authenticity, as in inverted it, of the Eddic tradition of Adam Thor defeating Loki, Balder, or Soot on the sea is, I find, extant in the well-known Babylonian or Chaldean epic dating back probably to about 3000 BC. How Adam, the son of God, broke the hand of Seth, or Set, or Balder. This epic of which a tablet copy in Assyrian of about 700 BC was found, had existed amongst the Sumerians since about 3000 BC, as I have shown from the trial scene therein being figured on an early Sumerian seal of about that date. But Assyriologists have fancied that it was merely mythological and referred to the breaking of the wing of the destructive south wind, just as runic scholars have hitherto imagined that the Eddas are merely mythological and their heroes not human and historical persons. Right, they're idiots. In the Babylonian epic, the hero is significantly called Adamu, the son of god Inder, implying that God, the idea of whom seems to have been first imagined by Adam, was already named after Thor, or Ad of the Inn himself, whilst the human Adam was made the son of God, just as Adam is called in the New Testament the son of God. The father god is also called therein An or Anu, keeping with the Edda, which calls Thor father Oin. Anu, Oin. So it's still the same guy. This Babylonian version of the later myth mongers makes Adamu to be brought for trial before his father, which is B himself, for injuring Seth, and in defending his action to call himself also Billy, Bill being, as we have seen, the title of Adam Thor as Bill the Baptist. The Babylonian text, remember, he introduced baptism too into his religion of the Son and benevolent Creator. Sound familiar? The Babylonian text reads, Seth, in destroying anger, soused him. Adamu under... Okay, yeah, so too, in destroying anger, soused him. Adamu under. Unto the abode of the fishes made him sink. So he's underwater. Oh, we'll just call him Set. Thou hast me tricked the worst of all. Adam said. Yeah. Thy hand will I break. As with his mouth he had said, so of Set, the hand was broken. Let's call him Loki. For 7 days, Loki over the land did not destroy in rage. And in Babylonian, there's these winds, right? The evil winds of this way, that way, and the other way. They're all demonic or of some sort of sorcery or magical conception. And this goes into the Babylonian magic. So you have these winds, but they're personified by a being or an entity. For 7 days, this is all described in Mass Scheme Whole by Michael W. Ford. For 7 days, Sutu over the land did not destroy in rage. Lord Anu to his minister Ila Abrat spake, why has Loki for 7 days over the land not destroying rage? Not destroying rage. Why hasn't he been destroying people? What's up with that? His minister answered him, Billy Adamu, the son of god Inder of Sutu, the hand has broken. When Adamu before Anu, the king, drew near, Anu saw him and said, Come, Adamu, why did you break the psychopath who destroys things' hand? Right. That's basically what that. Why did you stop that raging maniac from being a raging maniac? Adamu to Anu made answer. This would be like traditional court in present day, right? Well, why did you hinder the murdering rapist from murdering and raping? You're going to jail, sir. Adamo to Anu made answer, I, Billy, for the house of Billy, in the midst of the sea, fish I was catching, when Seth, in destroying anger, soused me, did duck me under to the abode of the fishes, made me sink. Well, there you go. I get my hair cut by a guy named Billy, so I'm gonna. That's what I'm gonna think of from now on. He's Bill the Baptist. He's a badass who fucks people up who are bad. Here the fragment ends. So you don't know what happened. What happened at the trial? You don't know. The fragment ends. Did they say, Seth, what have you been doing? No, probably not. Why are you dunking him in the water? Probably not. Egyptian version of the ducking. Asa Thor, or Lord Thor, who was usually called by his Sumerian title of Asara Saru by the Egyptians, the Osiris of the Greeks, was, according to the Egyptian version, induced by his archenemy. Did you even? I always thought Osiris was the Egyptian form. I didn't know that was. That's news. That's surprising to me. I always thought that Egyptian Osiris they would put. That's how retards tell the story when they're doing their presentations on all these videos. They don't ever say Asaru. They say Osiris. Was according to the Egyptian version induced by his archenemy Set or Suti, the wolf fiend, to go into a chest, which the latter then threw into the Nile. Yeah, come on in here. Locked it up and threw it in the water. And drowned the king. It is also significant that the Egyptians located Set, the Seth of Plutarch, in the south, as in the Babylonian version, and Eden, the home of Abel, was south of Cappadocia, right, in Carchemish. At least they have the directions right, even if they don't have the place, the actual place right. At least they know which geographic in comparison or in the where do you go, from which perspective of what, from which vantage point. So, banqueting hall scene with Loki in its Hebrew, New Testament, Greek, and Arthurian legendary versions regarding Michael versus Lucifer and Sir Gawain and the Green Man. Hebrew versions of Sut or Loki visit, or Loki's visit to Lord Thor's sons of God. Goth, right? The Hebrew version of this visit of Loki, Lucifer, Satan, to Lord Thor, as in Lord of the land, Lord of the place, not God, you know what I mean? And his sons is found in the opening chapter. So now, isn't it funny that these guys, our ancestors are the Elohim, but the gods that are on the mountain, deciding whether or not they're going to go fuck up the Edomites after they stole Eve in our raging war. The Elohim with Adam. So, yeah, going back to that Watchers theory that I have with Enoch and all that in the book of Enoch that they took out, it's kind of all making sense. We decided to start disobeying our directive of not mingling with these Chaldee Semites or these Ashkenazi Turks and said, fuck it, they're hot. And went down the mountain and said, hey, we'll make a fist bump pact. Just don't tell anybody. And then they started making monsters because these people were as tall as the regular Goths, but they were just as crazy brained as Woden and freaking Set. Or Balder. So yes, we created the monster. Now they have our intellect and they're evil and they're just as big. What the hell did we do? All right, anyway, moving on. Oh yeah, here we go. I'll just start over. The Hebrew version of this visit of Loki's suit or Satan to Lord Thor and his sons is found in the opening chapter of Job. Job, a personage who is admitted by biblical critics to have been a Gentile, and his land of Uz is now seen to be presumably coined from Osk or Uku or Uk or Uz, the title of Thor's capital at Vidara or Heaven in the Edda, and Sumerian records. Himen, heaven. Hittite word for heaven is Himen. In that chapter we read, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down it." That sounds awfully Masonic. The shit that you say when you're doing your initiations. Because I've read them, not because I've won. It's written in here. The book that you're going to buy after this. And the statement that Job's sons feasted in their houses, every one on his day, and sent and called their sisters to eat and drink with them, is in series with the Edda description of Thor's sons. In the Hebrew, the Lord who presided at the assembly is made a different person from the long-suffering Job for didactic purposes, just as Lord Thor or Indara or Ea was later made the son of the Father of God, who was created by men in the image and name of Thor as Ea or Jah. New Testament version. Isn't it cool now? Like, if you really want to, I mean, who wants to have a weak God perception, or even a weak, religious perception of, oh, we need to do this and we need to be PC. We need to, it's like weak-wristed, like religion, right? No, he was a badass, number one. He was damn Thor, right? I'm just saying. All the things now have more meat to them, and they make more sense. They look on the surface a lot better for our sake. We're not of this. We're living the bastardized and Semitized version of our own stories, which is completely inverted, and it neutralizes our power because of it's the mind war that causes us to feel weak and inferior, or that we need to have some sort of religious moral obligation that is not even true, because we're not there. The fairness is not with that of the evil. The evil cannot be bargained with or reasoned with. Therefore, it's not about fairness with them. We need to continue to be good to the mankind, but this thing that is against all of mankind doesn't need to be even factored into that equation. Whatever we do to it is what we do to it, and what needs to be done to it in order for it to get the fuck off our backs. And now you know your God is goddamn Thor. Your God is a benevolent creator, but who brought that idea to us? Which I believe, and I know there is an actual thing up there. But rather than have someone that they already, who basically, if nothing else, it was suicide by it was like a suicide by government, if you want to go that far with the Jesus thing, which isn't all that noble, I don't think. Martyring yourself for the sake of martyring doesn't seem like it's a thing that I'd be very proud of. But he didn't, in this story, Thor, Cain, nobody died. They beat the bastards. Gee, I wonder why they changed the story. I wonder why throughout history, before they got to creating Christianity, they retold the story with Prometheus or Zeus or whatever, always losing. That was the warm-up to making Jesus lose. And then people say, oh, it's not a loss. Really? We're stuck here waiting for him to come back. That's not a loss? Or are we not waiting for him to come back because we're already here? God created all of us, and all of us who have the empathy and the tether to God, not all people do. Not everybody's like us. We have the ability and the potential to do greater, better things, or hell, just as good, or heck, even a little bit not as good. But we don't know what actually happened because they are in control of our books. They made it so that it would be sacrilege if you ever attempted to get anywhere near that guy or claim to be having the same attributes as that guy. It would be sacrilege, it would be heresy, you'd be burned, yada, yada, yada. And everybody would turn their backs on you, and your Your congregation would turn its back on you, and they would reject you and kick you out the door, and they spray paint your dog. They do all kinds of things because you said, "Hey, we're just as tough as that guy, if not tougher. Like we can do this without waiting for him to come back." No, that won't fly. And who put that in their brain? Their enemy. Their mortal enemy who hates you and has been stomping on all of our necks for so long, still not satisfied with as much torture and torment that they put us through. Now, no matter how many wars they've made us fight and die on their behalf for their advancement so that they could have more control over us, we don't owe 36 or 100 trillion anything. They owe us. They owe us goddamn everything. And the last thing we'll ever receive is an apology, but that would be fake anyway. They owe us a lot of borrowed time, and time you can't get back. All you can do is start at that day and push forward and rebuild and reestablish truth. Truth is of the utmost importance. Even if you find out you're not the greatest human being in the world, or your heritage, or it's not as bad as living a lie. You accept what is true, and you become better, or you live up to whatever standard that history has given you to live up to. In our case, we have a high standard to live up to. In other people's cases, maybe they don't so much, but maybe they want to do better. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't give a fuck. Maybe that's why they don't have very high standards in the first place, because their historical family tree didn't really do a whole lot. Maybe they were coattailing ours. There's a place for everybody, and everybody has a purpose as long as they're willing to get involved. But we have to be in control of our upstairs first. We have to be in control of this. We can't let other things have it control, because then we will lose, because we'll be destined to self-sabotage. New Testament version of the expulsion of Satan from the Gothic heaven by Michael or Cain. I have a hard time saying that without thinking of Michael Caine. Anyway. This expulsion of Loki, or Satan Lucifer, from the Himen, capital of the Goths, at Vidara, by his outraged host Adam, through his crown prince Michael or Cain, is disclosed as the Gothic source of the New Testament legend of the casting out of Lucifer, the great dragon, that old serpent called the devil or Satan. That was ripped right off the pages. From heaven by Michael the archangel. That's Jude 9. Something I don't know what that says. Anyway. In the Old Testament, there is no reference to heaven as an abode of the just after death. This is purely Gothic or Hittite in origin. Catch that? There is no abode of the just after death. This is purely a Gothic or Hittite in origin. And by the way, nobody goes to Valhalla when they die. Valhalla was a part of Eden under the matriarchy of that demonic bitch. They would what do they call it when you go R backwards? What's that? What's the word? I can't fucking think of words now. Whatever. They would reside. What is this word that I can't think of? Yeah, whatever. Fall back to. No, it's not the word I'm looking for. They would retreat as a retreat. Yeah, would retreat to. There we go. It's one of their havens for concocting their poisons. It's Valhalla. It wasn't a good place to be. It wasn't an afterlife. But again, when you go into the Babylonian, you hear of Ereshkigal and all that stuff, how the gateway to hell or the underworld is protected by giant snake-like beings. Now when you hear that, you know exactly what they're talking about. They're talking about a cave in Karshemish where all this is taking place, and Ereshkigal and all this stuff. Even when you get into the Edda, what is it? It's not Oedipus. What's the other dude's name who plays the lyre? He allegedly created music in the Greek. That dude, he goes after. We'll get into it, but when we get to it, I'll remember. Greek tradition of Cain's banqueting hall. The memory of this famous banqueting hall in which Cain dispensed the mead to the lords or Gothic king and princes in their heaven capital is now seen to be the human historical basis of the legend of the Greek mythmongers of Ganymede, Gun or Cain of the mead. You know what mead is? It's typically fermented honey. I'm not sure if people use it as like a generic, like saying ale, but they don't ever mention like brewed beer. They always talk about mead, which is made from honey. And that takes a whole lot of skill just to collect and all that stuff and have an abundance of it to where you would be making mead with it and not other things. You know what I mean? That's shows a level of skill. The descendant of King Dardanos, who became the dispenser of mead to the gods, hence Dionysus. After the Asa, Thor had become deified. Though the hazy Greek memory of the genealogy of Dardanos in Homer's day perpetuates the anachronism of making Ganymede a grandson of Dardanos' son, King Erycthonios. That is, if we have found King Gun again or Cain. So he's not, instead of him being Thor's son, they make him the grandson of Erycthonius. Erycthonius would be him. The guy that they said he's the grandson of is actually who he actually is Erycthonius is Cain. British Arthurian version of Loki's visit to King Arthur or Arthur's Hall as the Green Man. The Middle English epic poem of Sir Gawain and the Green Man or Knight of about AD 1360 is now disclosed to have its unknown source in incidents in this Edda as... You know what? I'm sorry. Let me start this in a second. I heard noise. I don't expect anybody to be here. The door in front door is not locked. Let me just go take a look real quick, and I'll put this back on while I do that. I just want to verify what's up. Be right back.
Possibility of a diplomatic solution. The Americans, for example, the American Secretary of State George Shultz is going around trying to get a diplomatic solution. Don't you have any regard for that kind of possibility at all?
No. We don't recognize any American rule because America is not a neutral country. America is in the side Israel is completely, and America in this case is our enemy. How we can accept any rule from America for any solution for this problem? No, it is fan.
But it's not so much a rule, if I may say so. What it is that the Americans are trying to use their good offices to promote a settlement which both sides will accept.
No, when America is a neutral country and not completely in the side of Israelis, and we don't want it to be in our side, but to be in the middle position. In that case, we may hear and accept any participation from America. But now we don't recognize any rule for America for any solution, because America is our enemy. How we accept any efforts from America in this case?
What do you think of the recent uprising on the West Bank?
Pardon?
On the uprising by the Palestinians on the West Bank, on the occupied West Bank of Israel. What do you think about that uprising?
It is the beginning of the Palestinian revolution to liberate Palestine as a whole. And this revolution will advance towards the other.
Sorry to cut him off, but we got to get to this so I can finish up here. Okay. British Arthurian version of Loki's visit to King Arthur's Hall as the Green Man. The Middle English epic poem of Sir Gawain and the Green Man or Knight of about AD 1360 is now disclosed to have its unknown source in incidents in this Edda and its associates. The Green Man is seen to be Loki or Balder Abel at his cave home. I ran, so I'm kind of out of breath. And his cave home at the Green Chapel is in keeping with the Eddic Eden. His insolent entry into the banqueting hall of King Arthur and his knights is his boasting, his stigmatizing the knights as beardless babes, his altercation with Gawain, and King Arthur's gracious invitation to him, nevertheless to be seated, are all in agreement with this Edda, though the incidents are somewhat expanded with poetic license. The grotesque episode of the Green Man after being beheaded by Sir Gawain picking up his head in his hand and walking off with it is clearly founded on the misreading of the Eddic narrative of Cain's retort to Balder that if you were outside, your head I would have in my hand. And that is... And that this was so is evident in the sequel, which shows the Green Man with his head on and very much alive. At the same time, it is noteworthy that in the Indian worship of his she-devil mother Kali, the Keel title of the Edda, she is sometimes pictured as going decapitated, carrying her head in her hand. His title of Green is also evidently derived from the Edda, in which we have seen in Scene 4 that the Edenites called their earth Egreen, evergreen, and their divining tree at the Weird's Well of Erd was evergreen. And why do you think they called it evergreen trucking or evergreen transportation? And why was Mrs. Clinton involved in that? The face ripper offer herself. In the following extracts from the Arthurian epic, I have used the translation into modern English by Mr. K. Hare. I went to a school with Michael Hare, Mike O'Hare. I didn't know Mike Hare, and yeah, that's funny. Steve Hare. As the text in Lancashire dialect of the 14th century is less readily intelligible. The name Gawain, which is the usual form in that text, is used in preference to his Gawain. Sorry. The Green Man intrudes into King Arthur's banqueting hall. A fearsome master entering stops the mirth. From neck to loins most stoutly built of brawn. To me, that doesn't sound like your average oy vey. So I'm thinking maybe Germanic, maybe even a little bit Goth himself, but just completely the antithesis of Thor, right? From neck to loins most stoutly built of brawn. Mayhap he was the greatest of the earth, for giant-like so rode he oft by the lawn. Both his hue and favor were the deep link green, even all was green, his fellow and his weeds, saluting none but with scornful glance. Where is, he cried, the governor of this rout? I'll reason with him here if he advances. He rolled his eyes and glanced on all about. Arthur the king makes answer fearlessly, it actually kind of works there. Warrior, a while light down our feast to grace, then what thy will is we will learn in time and place. His challenge and results. It is 6:34. I got to get rolling here soon. The Green Man, refusing, claims the right to seek some knight in a knightly play. And Arthur made reply, if thou cravest battle, seek thy counter here. Nay, 'tis not battle I seek, he cries again. Among these beardless babes, what is to fear? There's none to match me. He then challenges any of them to try a stroke at him with his own axe with its L-long head under penalty of his having a return stroke, and that Loki's weapon in the Edda had a long attachment, and we have seen that the axe was a chief weapon of Loki, Balder, Baal. Arthur then uprises as volunteer, but is persuaded by Gawain with the consent of the Queen Guinevere to allow him to accept the challenge. Then Gawain gathers the great axe upon height and shears through the flesh fat bone over his gown. The green head totters, drops, rolls, and in despite, many start forth to spurn and kick it from their sight. Like soccer. But that dead body doth not falter nor fall, but starts forth stiffly where the princes stood, grasping with one dead hand, as it were wood, to find its head, and clutched and caught it fair, makes for the horse the nearest way that it could, bearing his own head by the bloodied hair. Kind of sounds like Sleepy Hollow. The abode of the Green Man as Eden. Okay. We're going to have to take this maybe a late nighter to finish it off, or we'll do it tomorrow. Okay? Okay. Couple of interruptions I wasn't anticipating. I wouldn't have gotten all the way through it anyway. But this is I'm really enjoying reading this and sharing this with you guys. Oh, they didn't come up. And yes. Okay, cool. That's good. Archangel, what it is. And FTJ Media. Boink. Edward Snowman. Thank you again, sir. I read that who we call Gilgamesh was an incorrect reading of Gilgamesh. I think Gilgamesh is actually stolen right out of Thor for having tamed the lions. They say that he roamed around looking for a match, and he was bored and all this stuff, and he was terrorizing and tormenting his kingdom and stuff like that. That sounds very Semitic in attitude. That sounds a lot like Balder, actually, maybe. Perhaps because it's kind of an older story, right? Maybe that's where it comes from. Maybe that's Woden or Balder. But anything that's allegedly Semitic, I would question where the roots of the stories are, because it seems like all they do is copy, steal, and paste and revise as the revisionists that they are. All right, so if we're over here on the Rumble, or if you're in FTJ Media, you can go ahead and do this thing with the thing here. There is the Patreon. I don't know why this is next to it, but this ends right here. So this is the Patreon for Christos Cast. The website, semperfryllc.com. Let's go to the Rumble and show you the same. So Patreon's right here. Okay. semperfryllc.com. You can use Foodstar for 6% off all of my most amazing hot sauces on planet Earth and beyond. There's my daughter when she was 5 months old. All right. That's what I have to go pick up right now. So, oh, by the way, if you haven't had the Venom, you really should try it. It's freaking amazing. It's one of my go-tos. So is the Smoke Boss and the Humzinger. And there's the Zeus Juice. And then the Zeus Juice, it's called the Extra Hot in comparison to the other Zeus. One is lots of garlic and cayenne, and the other one is lots of garlic, cayenne, and habanero. The formerly called Greek lightning, like grease lightning, the Zeus Juice Extra Hot. That's a really tasty one if you're in town. And then this one is calabrese peppers from Italy, and it's called the Sergeant Pepper. And then, whippersnapper with honey, traditional wing sauce, original recipe, all good stuff. And then there's creatine and my book. So if you click this, the book I've been pointing out the whole time, if you grab this and you scroll down, you can get it from Barnes and a physical copy. This is the Barnes version. Go to Amazon, you can get the larger 8x11 in a paperback version or hard copy, like a hardcover, or you can do the Kindle. The Kobo is also electronic, and so is the Lulu. If you don't want to go from them directly, then you can scroll all the way down here, and you can click 1, 2, or 3 dot, and I will sign it with a little bit of message sheet and send it to you. If you're in a different country, I would ask you not to use this method. Go to your Amazon and just look up the book or whatever. Okay, please, because the shipping is ridiculous, and I don't think it's going to be worth it for you to do it that way. Okay, awesome, and of course, as always, I don't know if I have even time to tell you, but Dr. Glidden's membership is there, and March 6th it's going to go up. So if you're not a member yet and you want to use the monthly is going to go away altogether, and then the annual is going to double. So get locked in now, and you use my code BALLBUSTERS for 25% off. Down here, BB5. Oh, here's my sauces, but BB5 for your 90 essential nutrients. If you get nothing else, get the whole food multivitamin. But if you're going to go for the full lineup, you do the whole food multivitamin, the cod liver oil, Alaskan cod liver oil for the essential fatty acids. Scroll down till you get to the fulvicemic blend for all of your minerals, and that's like a 90-day supply at the very least. Okay, scroll down more until you see the IP6 Supreme, which would be on the next page for me. Was it up here? Where'd it go? What happened? Did I miss it, or did it get sold out? Huh, I bet it got sold out. And I bet we did that. For the most part. Oh no, here's IP6 Supreme right here. Boom. We did buy them out of the copper in their beef liver. All right, so here we go. There it is. Now I gotta really go. I gotta skedaddle. All right, thank you guys.